political head trauma, where if head trauma had a podcast, it would sound like this. Tonight we're chatting with, well, I know it's not Friday, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, can we just make a big deal that this is the first time, you guys, we're doing a special showing tonight. We have a special guest that we just couldn't wait and wanted to get her on. She is running for governor. Her name is Sylvia. And so I'll let you make your introduction, Sylvia, but I wanted to make sure that everybody, we're going to wait for a lot of you to join us. It is not normal for us to be here on a Wednesday, but we feel like it's highly important. And especially to meet this candidate. She's got a lot to say. So introduce yourself, please, Sylvia.
Well, I'm Sylvia Fisk, and I am from Salt Lake City. I have been living in Bountiful for the past 30 years, but I'm a Sandy girl and born and raised right here in the Wasatch Front. So my roots go back over 8 generations in Utah. My fifth great grandfather was an explorer and cartographer with the Dominguez Escalante expedition. And
wow.
He has a statue up at This Is the Place Monument. And when I went on a tour of the Capitol.
Uh-oh. Did we lose your sound? Oh, she's stalling out. All right, well, more of us. Yeah, she's coming through on her cell phones, which means that the connection might be a little laggy. Anyways, we're chatting with Sylvia Fisk. While we wait for her to bump back in, we can go ahead and, I guess, do some kind of... Oh, there she is. She's back. Okay. You bumped out. We lost you for a second there.
Oh, that's okay.
Right after you're talking about your... Yeah.
About the Capitol?
Yes.
I was just going to say that my fifth great grandfather made the very first map of the Utah. It's mostly Utah County of the Utah Valley and the state.
That's amazing. So were they, your great grandfather?
Fifth great.
Fifth grade. I was like, wait a minute. There is no way. I'm sorry, ma'am. That doesn't check out. That's incredible. So your roots are deep here.
My roots go back deep. And if you want to really get technical, my roots go back almost 2,000 years.
Oh, yeah.
I do want to get technical. Explain.
Just being Native American and being in this country and this land for all those years.
And your people were you said Escalante?
The Dominguez Escalante expedition. My grandfather was in that. He was the cartographer and the map maker.
That's amazing.
So, yes.
So you love this country, probably amazingly.
I do.
That's awesome. You've got a really interesting background. So I know you didn't just jump on the scenes. I have known you in politics for quite some time, and I've known you to be outspoken, and I've known you to be highly thoughtful when you are speaking. So you're not just flabbergasted or anything like that. You have a lot of respect, and I appreciate you running. I know it's not an easy deal. And when candidates do it, there's a chance they're going to take some arrows. And what's interesting to me is that, my goodness, aren't you taking your fair share here, if not more than... So you've had them kind of come after you a little bit here during the race. I'm sure that you could share with us, like what's going on.
Oh, she must have bumped out again. Oh, dang it.
So
we keep losing her. Oh, she's
back. And sorry.
I'm learning a valuable lesson to learn how to use my laptop.
It's no problem. I want to know, obviously you're established Utahn. You're obviously been in politics in kind of the same way that I'm in politics, is that you're behind the scenes working towards our platform, working for better candidates, and just a better party. You're a member of our governing body. And And you've been behind the scenes for a long time. Tell us a little bit about your politics in the past.
Well, I have always felt that it's our obligation and duty as citizens of this country to be involved in politics because what's distressing is that our neighbors and everyday people are not. And then they wonder why things are going wrong. And my parents were always civically involved. I remember my mother being a judge in the general elections and watching her go count votes and come home at 2 a.m. And as soon as I was able to vote, they would take me to the caucus meetings and I would volunteer my time too. I would be precinct chair, I would be a judge. And so I liked the process of how we elected our president, how we counted it, we were valued. We had a Democrat judge and a Republican judge, and then somebody who was neutral. And we worked together as a team to make sure everything was fair and right. And I see so much division, so much has changed. And I think it's because people are not staying involved.
It's true.
Need to be.
And you get the government you deserve.
Right, right. And when we talk about the government being by and for the people, that puts that duty and obligation on us. We do need to be involved. We do need to speak up when something is wrong. And I've always been like that. I'm kind of the spokesperson in the family. I'm the middle child.
As am I.
So when there is something business to be taken care of, my siblings would always come to me because I'm not afraid to speak out. And because of the way I was raised with truth and basic fundamentals of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we were LDS. And another interesting thing is I'm 5th generation LDS, which is very uncommon for Mexican and Hispanic families. That when Joseph Smith was the prophet and he was sending out the first missionaries and they were going into Mexico and over in this part of the country, it was one of my grandfathers that was converted. So I know nothing else except the LDS culture and the church. So growing up with that environment with very good parents, it was always important to me to have truth. If we don't have truth in our lives, we get deceived very easily. And I'm finding that happens everywhere in the workplace, but the most serious place of not having the truth is in our government. Because everybody's by the government. We can go and have this nice job at this wonderful place to work. It doesn't affect anybody else. It doesn't affect our neighbors, but the government affects us all.
You know, when Jared and I were first approached, and initially David and you were first approached to do a show with the Main Street Media Group, and shout out to them. Thank you for believing in us and supporting us. And we hope people will go to their website and
mainstreetmediautah.com or kmmu.com or .org.
So shameless plug. But when they first approached us, what they said is, well, we don't want just a political show. And I said, wait a minute. Politics is in everything. Everybody's affected by politics. Everybody. I mean, it's in our religions in some places. And after COVID, it was in our schools. It's still in our schools. It's in every aspect of your life, from how you shop to how you save to how you retire, how you die. Politics affects you. And as you grew up, just like as I grew up, you didn't talk politics or religion at a dinner table. And it's like, wait a minute, why not? Because for me, nothing is more important to me than my faith and my God, and I should never be ashamed not to talk about him. But politics, we should have these discussions at our dinner table because we need to know what side each other's on. Not that there has to be a side. I think it's good versus evil at this point, but it's not been something people were able to just talk about. So here you are.
It's very
now watching it change.
Right. Politics is very divisive because if you don't agree with a family member, they will turn you, they will shut you out.
It's
It,
true.
I grew up a Democrat. We were Kennedy Democrats, is what I like to say. And when Reagan was running for president and it was Jimmy Carter, that was when I questioned why is one Republican, what is a Democrat? That was when I first learned about platforms. And as I read the platforms, I didn't agree with the Democrat platform. And I thought it was surprising because I thought being Democrats, especially in Hispanic and Mexican families, is more tradition than really valuing what the party stands for.
Why
And
is that? Because I know so many Mexican and Spanish individuals where they are so family oriented. They are so, the ones I know, they love this country and they are so grateful to be in this country and not in the one they were born in. And they work very, very hard and they hate taxes just as much as I do and big government. They just want to be left alone and raise their families. And so it's the big lie. I don't know when it happened, but it's like there's been a flip of what Republicans actually were and what Democrats actually were.
Yes. I kept it a secret for a long time, almost 15 years. I didn't tell my sisters still are very Democrat. They will vote for Biden, but my brothers and I, we were more conservative and we're voting Republican. But I kept it secret. I went unaffiliated for a long time because I didn't want to tell my family, yes, I'm a Republican, because my family came first. And my sisters would continue to talk about politics. And that's when I stopped talking about politics because I didn't want to argue.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And
we
I
all
still
have family members, I'm sure. Do you? Okay, Jared's the one that doesn't. But I have family members whom I love dearly, dearly. But I do not share their views on politics. And I'm highly involved in politics. I try to educate myself, but they don't respect that.
Yes, it came down to not just doing what everybody said. And that's not me. I have to know why, when, how. I have to know details before I'll do something. And so I got to where I was listening to the person. I was vetting all the candidates, all parties. And that's how I would vote for a long time until it became apparent that I needed to support the platform of the Republican Party. And what's distressing that I'm seeing now is that people aren't doing that. And they say they're Republican and they'll come out and say, well, I'm a conservative Republican. It's unnecessary to have to say that. It should be apparent in your actions and when you talk to the public, when you're speaking about issues. It needs to be apparent that you are conservative, that you believe in a traditional family, that you believe in less taxes and conservative values, because that's how you live.
Well, our party has behaved badly, if we're being honest. In DC,
Yes.
especially, the line has been blurred. And when I first met you, or when I first really got to know you, is when Trump was running for office. And it was before convention, before he'd been chosen a nominee. And I was supporting Ted Cruz because, like you, I felt like I had already met him. I'd already talked to him, and I know he knows policy, and I know he's conservative. And you said to me unapologetically, Trump is going to upset this apple cart, and that's what this country needs. And everyone that I love very much was already wholeheartedly voting for Trump.
Right.
And yet to me, I was like, this is insane. He's a game show host and an old 70s playboy. But
you know what
never looked back.
What happened was my son had just come back from his mission in Mexico. I was struggling with the fact that I had two sons with drug addiction issues. And my son came back from his mission way down in the farthest south of Mexico. I had gone to school in Mexico City when I was a teenager. So I'd lived in Mexico. My dad was the mission president in the west side of Mexico. And so I understood the problems that Mexico had with drug cartels and trafficking 50 years ago. So when my son came back, it was the middle of 2015. And he knows that I will vet candidates. And I was listening to them all. I really liked Ben Carson. And then my son said to me, have you listened to this guy, this Trump guy? And of course, I knew all about Trump.
Everybody knew Trump.
Yes. And he had a fresh, unaware perspective of this man who was talking on TV. He said, you need to listen to him, Mom, because what he's saying is the truth. And so I took the time to listen to every speech and every rally of President Trump, except for one. I missed one. And I was stunned that he was nothing like the media, nothing like what I had heard for the last 30 years. And when Don Pay was on TV and said he was going to head the campaign in Utah, we jumped right in. I'm friends with Stan Parrish, and he was working with Don Pay. And I said, sign me up. What can I do? Because the more I listened to Trump, the more I learned. I learned that he didn't ever drink. He didn't smoke. He promoted that. He taught his children no drinking, no smoking, no tattoos. And I thought he sounds like an LDS parent. But, you know, the lifestyle of a businessman like that from in New York, of course, you know, he had been divorced. He had affairs, and which we can't really judge anyone by that, because that's about 50% of society. And so I hope it's not that high. I don't know.
I know, but we're perfectly imperfect.
Oh, I
That's-
think
Yes,
I
but
think it's
we're not
higher.
yeah, we're not supposed to judge. So I put that aside and I listened to him, and I realized he is strong. He's not going to back down. And I saw a love and a patriot in this Donald Trump. And the repercussions I got from my friends was amazing. I lost friends.
I have no doubt.
Yes. And I had no problems. I was happy. I was very open about the fact that I was campaigning for Trump. I had stickers on my choir bag. I was in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. I got a lot of negative feedback on that. I would get called names from my choir friends.
I had no idea you were in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. You guys,
19
that's a whole podcast by itself. That's an exceptional accomplishment.
Yes. And well,
You know-
and that, you know, to be singing a choir like that, that's where you learn to work across the aisle with all those differences.
Oh,
You have to
yeah.
work together, 350 voices harmonizing together. You learn some very, very valuable lessons and a lot of discipline.
Sylvia, the elephant in the room is here you are of Mexican descent, Mexican Indian, you said?
Yes, Native American. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, Native American. But here you are, I imagine, coming out as Trump.
Yes.
And the media had already told all of the Mexican people what a racist he was for wanting to seal the border. I mean, and if people that we both know, all of us know, that will watch one line on a news article or listen to the snippet on the news, and that's all they know, and that's how they, I mean, you had to have been, your own family was probably like, girl, you know this man's racist against you.
Yes, yes. And not just that, but the thing, though, that I took advantage of was the fact that I could be a spokesperson and say, no, he's not racist. He doesn't.
Oh, yeah. Your voice carries higher and louder.
And that's what I'm noticing now. I am seeing our state government headed in dangerous directions. And I'm watching the other candidates speaking out against DEI and racism. But the fact of the matter is, I think I am doing this because my voice has more weight in saying DEI is dangerous. It's racist. It's segregation. And I think coming from me as a woman and a brown one, it carries some weight that is an advantage I have from the other candidates.
That's no doubt. In fact, we've always said that when it's actually, well, like Gowd, when someone like Gowd comes out and he's talking about protecting girls and protecting women, and his voice has got an exceptional pull
Right.
because of all the people that, stereotypes are just exploded. And this takes me into your involvement with Log Cabin Republicans, because you're not just brown, you're not just a woman, but you are loving and your heart is big, and you're highly, when you get in, you go all in. I do know that about you.
That's right. You know, when I make up my mind about something, I'm 100%. I will find it. I will learn everything I can. I will do everything possible to accomplish what it is I set my mind to.
Now let's go into the Log Cabin Republicans. Explain to our guests or our viewers exactly what that is and how you got involved with that.
I got involved with Log Cabin Republicans. It is a chapter that is conservative gay, so, the community. And my youngest son was gay. And I learned a lot from him, and I understood how he felt about being gay, especially in Utah. When he first told me that he was gay, I felt like a weight had been lifted. But I also felt very sad because I knew what it was like to grow up different in Utah. And I'll joke about it now. I'm from White City, Utah, and I think there were maybe 2 other Mexican Hispanic families in the whole subdivision. And it was
White City?
to grow up brown in a white neighborhood. So when my son told me he was gay, I said, it's very hard to be different, but I'm here for you. And all he wanted in life was to just be Nathan. He didn't want labels. He didn't want to belong to this group or that group. He didn't want to have to carry a rainbow flag. And I knew exactly what he meant because I was the same way. I didn't want to be labeled because of the color of my skin. And it sounds funny, but even to this day, people will say, so what are you? That's the funniest way of asking me my ethnicity is, what are you? But like my son, I'm just me. And,
Yeah.
and so when I found out about Log Cabin, I was interested in how the support for the gay community, especially the ones that just want to be themselves. And Log Cabin was that group. They were just very concerned, conservative people who were gay and able to voice their strengths and their opinions and support and encourage each other and get involved in politics and have their perspective on their view. Because they're gay, we can talk out about how this bathroom situation, men don't belong in the girls' bathroom, and getting it from a good, hardworking, honest man like Gowd, bringing that to our attention was important. And like being brown and talking about Trump not being racist, coming from Gowd had more value. And there were times, and I told Gowd this, it's sad that a single conservative gay man is bringing to light that we as women are not safe in locker.
Amen.
Yes,
Yeah.
where's our spouses and our straight men speaking out with that strength?
We've had that same conversation. Is like, where are the moms? Because he said a woman coming out about this against this is going to have far more weight than a man. But yet in this society, we need strong men. I don't care what feminists say. We need strong men.
Yes.
I certainly love strong men. And as a very feminist who believes women are just the same as men or equal rights or whatever, I think that God created us to be everything Adam isn't, right? We are, yes, we're equals, but strength to me is so needed or society crumbles.
I really liked what Gowd was doing with Log Cabin Republicans. When I first became a part of it, Nathan and I would go, and it was more of a little get together and feeling some camaraderie. and eating donuts and talking about issues. But Gowd really took the Log Cabin Republicans and made it about all issues and how it concerned us all as a society and government. And he really did a wonderful job. And so I really enjoyed that.
And the Log Cabin Republicans felt that the platform of the Republican Party was more in where they stood, even though society tells us that it's everything that the LGBTQ is against. And what the gay friends that I have, I think they try to avoid being political because there is a label,
yes.
and yet they live their lives by example. That it's incredible because they are conservative,
Yes.
they are family oriented, they love and want to be loved, and they don't want to talk about their sexual preference. That's like the last thing. We don't talk about it.
Yeah, we're not different. We're all people. We all contribute to the issues in society, and that's where it just needs to stop. All these labels and these groups, it's destructive, and that's segregation.
Yeah, by design.
Mm-hmm.
So you were involved, and it was a great opportunity for you and your son to connect and give him a place to actually maybe learn from people. You were learning from people. They were learning from you, I have no doubt. And so what happened to the Log Cabin Republicans?
Well, what happened is that they're concerned in the issues such as transing children. And this was becoming an issue. And I had first heard about Equality Utah when Gowd started speaking out against it. And I thought, what is Equality Utah? Why are they involved in our government? Why are we giving any value to that when they are trying to support this trans wave going through society? And
through kids.
Through children. And that's my breaking point. Our government needs to leave our children alone. We need to let parents be parents in these issues. And then the past few years, I have some children that are junior high school teachers, and it's the same thing. With federal funding, they have to cover certain things about these social ideologies. And I'm finding out that Equality Utah is supporting issues where they cross the line. They just need to leave children alone. So when Gowd became aware that Amy Winder Newton was raising money and going to benefits to raise money for Equality Utah, that concerned him. And he had the guts to say something. So he brought that up, asked her, who are you representing? Because as far as we knew, she was on Governor Cox's staff. She was the director of families. Well, the director of families should not be promoting and supporting a group who believes children should be getting hormones because they think they're the opposite sex.
Well, she would be working herself out of a job because
yes,
you keep giving the children those hormones that have I don't know if it's an absolute ratio, but it does have an effect on their ability down the road to have children.
Yes.
Well, and there's the very fact that this type of ideology makes the state the parent and not the parent.
Exactly.
And therefore destroys the family within itself.
Well, and Dowd saw that. He saw that they were crossing the line. So he confronted her. He said, "Why are you doing this? Who are you representing? Is it the governor's office? Is it Salt Lake County Council? Who are you raising this money with Equality Utah on behalf?" And she wouldn't answer him.
And I just interject? For those that don't know, Amy Winder Newton, she has run for governor. She has been highly involved politically within the party's leadership on the governing body in the SCC, which is the State Central Committee. That's the governing body of the party. Mm-hmm. And she then, after running for governor, then she was also a Salt Lake County. She is a Salt Lake County council person. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And if you were part of our show or you saw the show when we had Gout as a guest, he was actually challenging her there regarding trans women or trans men actually going into the bathroom that they were transitioning to and in city locker rooms for city rec centers.
Yeah, and city and county. It was Salt Lake County.
Oh, that's
if I
right.
remember.
Yeah.
Rec
So
centers.
she has been on, I've seen her in Deidre Henderson's post that she's working with the state governor's office. At what capacity? So is she a volunteer? Is she paid?
She's paid. She's paid as the director of families.
I did not know that.
What do you think the drive is? I mean, I'd like to still mend these people on this kind of, it feels like there's a push for transgenderism to be out there, and maybe it always existed and I didn't notice it because I'm not a part of that community. And now they're just trying to, but it feels like there's a push, and all the studies are coming out that in young men, it's almost doubled, but in girls, it's gone up some 400%. And it's gone up. It to me appears like it's a cultural wave that's crashed up on our shore. And do you think that there's it feels like an intended push? Do you think it is? What's your feeling on that?
Yes, it feels like that to me. And, I'm very protective of my family because they're not little children. They're adults and they have their own lives. But this has affected my immediate family. When I found out that some of my family members were suddenly opposite sex within the last few years, that's when I draw the line, because I watched these family members since they were born growing up. There was nothing to indicate they were opposite sex. So for them to suddenly say that as adults, I'm like, no, who told you that? Why? So there is a push, and it's distressing me.
I think many people who are watching this or will be watching this, hi future people, I think it's been touched in my family. I've seen it happen in people that I love very much. I've seen little children that I love very much make that, and they're so confused.
Yes.
And even the parents are so confused because they don't want to not protect their child. Just like you with your son, you love him no matter what, but that little piece of you that your heart breaks, not because they're gay. That's not it. It's because the world we live in and the potential challenges that are going to be higher for someone who's gay, someone maybe who is a different race, somebody of a different class as far as financial class, all of these things. That's just life. That's the world we live in. But
and you know what? I am very concerned. Yes, I have reached out to some of my friends that are trans and discussed this with them. And some of them will say, well, I felt this way when I was 3 and 4 years old. And I said, but they were adults when they decided this. And even they were concerned that they were making a mistake, because it's not something that just happens overnight or in a few years. This is something that people who are trans think they have felt their entire life. So that's why I'm concerned. And they have even told me, just be there for them, because the day will come when they realize they have made a mistake, because this is not something that you just decide from social pressure in a matter of years. And so I am concerned that they're being indoctrinated somehow.
Well, we've seen that. We've seen that, right? In schools, the curriculum. I'm curious when you said about Equality Utah sneaking into our schools. And I remember the day I found out that Planned Parenthood was responsible for the sex ed curriculum in our schools. That blew my mind that we were getting curriculum based from from that place. How many private organizations do you know that get to give the curriculum of an entire state school?
Well,
So,
you know, that I have been trying to get certain programs into our public schools, like drug addiction awareness programs. And that's something that my son says they really need. Suicide and drug addiction, but somehow we give a room for Equality Utah and these ideologies. So something's wrong.
yeah.
I'd like to see what their curriculum is.
Hmm.
I would be, because it does feel like we're being treated like it feels like the doctors who do this are doing it without further thought because they get a permanent customer.
Right.
Pharmaceutical companies,
Hmm.
same. They get a permanent customer. The government, I don't know what the government's incentive is. I could see if the government chose not to call it wrong, but the government seems to be endorsing it.
Yes.
And
Pushing it, actually.
yeah, and
Like almost more than endorsement.
but on any
It's in our
level,
military, and our military is paying for it.
and that's where it gets concerning. Honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, every day that goes by, I see my government as an adversary to me living a prosperous life. I see my government as the largest threat in my life. It's not China, it's not Russia, it's not any of the Middle East issues. The most dangerous thing that I have to deal with in my life is my government. And the only argument there is it federal or local or state that is the biggest threat? And I guess they take turns. I mean,
Yeah.
it's tax time. So right now, obviously it's federal because they're putting a gun to my head and saying, give me 60% of everything you did this year because, the roads have no potholes or whatever. I don't know.
Because the military needs trans surgery. And we need to learn how shrimp act on a treadmill.
Well,
It feels like I'm confused about that. And it could just be that, I mean, I would, if someone came out tomorrow and said, the pharmaceutical companies own all of your elected officials and all of your bureaucrats, I would believe it.
well, I think they do.
Yeah.
They do. And what's distressing is, as I've been advocating for drug awareness, I'm finding out that the Republican representatives in DC are trying to protect big pharma, and the elected employees that I trusted, I no longer trust because they have been given donations by these pharmaceuticals.
Do you think that a donation means automatic I just vote your way, automatic compliance on behalf of the politician? Or do you think that it's just that slippery slope where perception is everything in politics, right?
It could be a little bit of both. They probably feel obligated because if they run for re-election, they know where to go because they'll get that funding. And then
only if they voted on behalf of that will they get it. So
exactly.
I want to get back to what happened with the log cabin Republicans and your involvement there.
All right. After finding out what had happened with Gowd, and that it was Amy Winder, it came to a point where she was saying that she was getting harassed. And it reminded me of what had happened a few years before when a friend said to me, hey, did you hear about the sexual harassment going on in the GOP? And I said, no, really? What's going on? So, of course, I went to Facebook and found part of what was going on and the women that were involved claiming that somebody was sexually harassing them.
In Salt Lake County.
And that Scott Miller was protecting this individual. And so I finally questioned these women. I have been in an industry where sexual harassment was rampant. I worked for an airline. I was a flight attendant. And it wasn't just pilots, it was passengers too.
Absolutely.
The propositions, the comments, the
The
ugh.
touching.
Yes. And you're stuck on a plane 30,000 feet in the air with these gross passengers. So you kind of learn from experience, and you've got details, you've got stories. I had half a dozen stories, ready to go. What happened? I wanted to know what happened. And being me, I wanted to know details, especially where it seemed to be Scott Miller was involved, because he's my friend and I respect him. He did an amazing job as Salt Lake County chair. And so I wanted to know details because that's how I am. So I asked the women, what happened? And I couldn't get a straight answer. So I even wrote a couple of my experiences. I said, this is what happened. So what happened? Well, it's in emails. It was in phone calls. Okay, so where's the emails? Oh, well, the media, we gave them to the media. So I said, okay, what you sent to the media, forward it to me. Because in my opinion, I had the ability, as a flight attendant, I had the ability to get a lot of good pilots fired. And I decided to take care of it myself. And I let them know when they crossed the line. And you know what? It didn't continue. You have that power.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I worked in an industry as well where you I worked in the bar industry, I've been in the travel industry, and you start to get used to it. But the one thing that I always had the power to do is go, nope, too far.
Right.
And it always stopped. It stopped. When I put the boundary down, these men, I mean, men are men, and they're going to ask you on a date. And most people I know get married from someone they worked with, and that it probably wasn't love at first sight. In fact, they're not able to ask you out and you say yes or no, I'm in a relationship, or no, I'm married. I mean, I can't tell you how much power you have, and men will usually respect that.
And they do. When you are strong and you put that limit, and they knew they had crossed the line, first of all, by the way I reacted, and they knew right away they had crossed the line and they were about to lose their job unless they complied with and turn around with some respect. So you did have that ability. And I even explained that to these women. And so when I couldn't get a straight answer, this was in the middle of the Me Too movement. And I saw how they were weaponizing that to go after Trump and all these claims of these women. What's sad is when you put value on someone who can't prove it. Then
That's against our American culture. You have to be able to face your peers and fight and challenge your accusers. And you're such a slippery slope.
Yes.
You're going to be accused of victim shaming.
Right.
And blaming just for questioning them. And yet Scott Miller can't, I mean, I saw his emails and he tried to defend himself, and yet it was the Me Too movement. And it's a hard time because you want to believe everybody, you want to believe the victims. But if we don't require some proof and a challenge, I mean, I'm seeing that with people that I highly respect right now in the world. And I'm just thinking, why can't they face their accusers? That's what America's about.
Exactly.
Well, it's like we keep having these repetitive major cultural mental diseases thrown at us, and the Me Too movement was that.
Yes.
And it took that Indian comedian guy, what was his name? Aziz Ansari. I probably said that. It took that one where people went, oh, wait a second.
What did he do?
He went on a date with the girl, and he didn't push on her. I mean, he probably pushed on her like any normal date, but she came out of it and acted like he raped her. And then when she wrote down the story, it was her reporting of the story that people went, what? And he lost his television show and everything. And then it culminated, of course, with Johnny Depp and the girl that
Amber Heard.
pooed on his bed.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, Amber Heard.
The dog did that.
Yeah, the
Little
dog. But
tiny
anyway,
dog.
but it was a cultural mental disorder that came out. Now, yes, there was a correction that needed to be made because there was guys like Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby and apparently now P.
Cultural witch
Diddy.
hunt, right?
But but it overcorrected.
Mhm.
And sure, there's probably stuff dealing with going to the transgenders and homosexuals that there has probably been a negative connotation that they've dealt with, but it feels like if that's the reason we're doing this, they've overreacted because right now Europe is shutting it down. They're turning it off.
Mhm.
All of them, England, all of them, they said, oh, we dove in too far. What have we done? Now, I've also heard that, is it Missouri? Probably did the biggest thing that we're going to see able to deal with this is Missouri made it so that these, because it was, I think a 5-year window that they could that they could sue the doctors over this.
Statute of limitation.
Yeah. Missouri extended that to like 50 years or something. And I think we're going to see some doctors regretting their decisions they're making today over the next decade or two. But anyway, sorry.
You know, that is why I demanded the proof, because I knew Scott was a good man. And I even said to these women, if you're going to ruin the reputation of a good person, you need to have proof. You can't just do this and get away with it. It's wrong.
But they can.
And they did. He was running for state party chair and he dropped out. And I always, in my opinion, it felt like that was the purpose. That was the point.
Mm.
And it just, to me, is sordid because there's this web of establishment in our government that wants to stay in power. And it felt all related to me. And I knew that Scott Miller was a very strong Trump supporter. And that was why I ran for state party chair, because I wanted to make sure that President Trump in Utah got the support he had and we wouldn't end up with this McMullen fiasco.
Well, and he wasn't getting that support from our governor.
Right.
He was getting it from Senator Lee, not Senator Romney. And he was getting it from our attorney general. But outside of that, I mean, Utah's supposed to be a very red state, a very conservative state who values these family policy that, you know, our platform of the Republican Party, but it's turning purple before our eyes because we're leaving the platform and we're going into the weeds, and the weeds are expensive to be in, and
there's no
detrimental.
Yeah, there's no integrity there. The thing is, we're supposed to have truth and integrity. That's part of our platform. And so when I asked for the proof, I needed to have it because for me, bearing false witness is a very serious thing. It's a commandment.
Yeah.
10 Commandments, and it's there for a reason. I know what it feels like to be falsely accused and to be arrested and to be put in jail. I know what it's like to be falsely accused. So I think that's why I was so insistent on this proof, because while the men weren't going to be arrested or anything, I know what it's like to experience false accusations. And I called them out on that. I said, you cannot bear false witness. It's wrong. It can ruin people's lives. And you better have the proof.
But that certainly made you a target, didn't it?
Yes. And
because you were blaming the victim.
Yes. And of course, the proof never came. And then I started getting lashback from other elected employees. That's when Todd Weiler got involved and he was defending the women. I confronted him too. You know, there was Kim Coleman, there was Laurie Stringham, And then the thing is, Laurie Stringham even reached out to me and tried to tell me, well, she sounded kind of waffling on her comments to me too. It was like, well, it's okay now. It's not really like that. So I couldn't get a straight story from these women. You don't need, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have excuses or
A good memory.
yes. The more you lie, the more you have to think up what to cover that lie is. I tell the truth, and it's important for me. When you have a reputation of telling the truth, people see it. You look them in the eyes, they look back at you. And it's surprising when you're communicating with someone, when you look right in their eyes, they will tell you everything because that trust is there. When I was a flight attendant based in Denver, I'm not a union person. I was hired during the strike of '85. And so I was a single mom, and all I worried about was providing for my children. And I didn't care that pilots were striking for more money. I needed to
Right.
work and provide for my children. So I was a scab. And my roommates, there were 10 of us in a commuter hotel because I commuted out of Salt Lake. And we were going through contract negotiations, and I saw the latest proposals by the union, and they were not good. And I went and told some of my roommates, there were about 4 of them there at the time. And I said, oh, guess what our union's proposing? And they said, oh, that's awful. And I went in the other room and I could hear them talking. And one of them said, oh, I think she's lying. You know how she hates the union. She's just lying to try and get us mad. And my roommate that I'd worked a lot with on trips, she said, no, Sylvia doesn't lie. If Sylvia says this is what they are doing, I believe her. And to this day, when you hear something like that, you try to live up to it. And I realized that telling the truth, it's so much easier to deal with the consequences of truth,
Yeah.
trying to cover up and living with that guilt and oh, what do I say here? And then being caught.
It's true.
So
So you looked into that. I mean, you're naturally curious, and you like to have. I said you are very thoughtful and reasonable when you are talking, and I know even if I disagree with you,
yes,
I know you believe it in what you're talking about. You're not trying to sway someone into something you don't even believe. That's something that I knew about you from the second we had our Trump conversation.
thanks.
Because I was like, and it didn't help. It didn't hurt that you actually had bling that said Trump on it. And I was like, she's all in. I can respect this girl. I can like this girl. So when you looked into the log cabin thing and you questioned Amy Winder Newton, now this would probably be the second time now that you've questioned her.
It just seemed too coincidental for it to be her again making these accusations. And when she was saying that Gowd was harassing her, I thought, oh, that's her famous go-to to hurt people.
And I know that Gowd has questioned her in the county council,
Right.
and which is his right. It's every single person who lives in the county to question the council. I mean, that's government. That's the people's government.
It's our first right to question.
And duty, as you said in the very beginning, our duty is to be involved in our government, or we get the government we deserve.
Yes.
So when you reached out and she claimed harassment, did she claim it was the log cabin Republicans harassing her, or was it just individuals?
I don't know what.
Because the log cabin Republicans.
That's what I was trying to find out. So what happened was I reached out to Scott Miller and Dave Robinson, who were the ones she was accusing of sexual harassment. Oh, what was so funny was when Scott Miller told me who was the person they were accusing of sexual harassment, all 4 of them conveniently, I said, but he's gay.
Yeah.
How does a gay guy sexually harass?
That's David Robinson, correct?
Yes.
Well, and then I didn't get the impression at first that it was sexual. They said it was more sexist.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I knew David Robinson was gay. I only know of him. I've never met him that I know of, but he's not sexist. He's brutally honest. And we all know people who are brutally honest, right? That facts don't care about your feelings, right? They just tell you, you want this, you have to do this. You want this, it's going to take this, this, and this. And they're not going to pick you up off the floor, because what they just said is you're going to have to work hard, spend money. You know, this is how politics is. It's a dog eat dog world. He's
And
honest.
When I asked them, when I asked Dave Robinson, it started out as just harassment. But when I was confronting the women, they told me it was sexual harassment. And that's a very serious allegation. That's when
All of it is.
you have to have proof, because that's a very serious claim. And so by the time I was confronting them about it, it was sexual harassment.
And they were accusing David Robinson. And then the chair of the party was being accused as
Not
trying to cover it up.
Yes.
So, and his ambition over. He was canceled.
Yes.
Scott Miller was canceled almost overnight. And I saw the Facebook stuff, and I saw people who were friends with him trying to defend him. Then those people were put in the crossfire.
I did. That was me too. I was trying to defend him too. Oh, I have not stopped defending him. So
that's interesting. And so when Log Cabin actually questioned Amy Winder Newton on her involvement for raising money for Equality Utah, which we figure out is basically an oxymoron.
right.
Because they don't want us all to be equal, and they certainly don't like, you know, we got into that.
Act Blue is going to do what Act Blue is going to do.
It's true. And so when did Amy Winder Newton decide she is going to
Shut me up?
Yes.
Well, what happened was I was trying to get answers. Gout didn't know. Scott Miller didn't know. Dave Robinson didn't know. So talking with them, I said, well, I'll just ask. So Amy, what was your purpose for saying this about gout? Were you acting on behalf of, as an elected official? I did reach out because I wanted to know what had happened with Dave Robinson and Scott Miller. And I found out that Dave Robinson had sued her for defamation, a multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit. And
Guilty people don't do that.
Nope. And I thought that was very interesting. So during the course of the summer, I find out, I'm hearing rumors that the Salt Lake County District Attorney, Sim Gill, is representing Amy Winder Newton. And so I thought, well, I'm going to ask him, because he shouldn't be. He's supposed to be prosecuting criminals. And
whoa.
Sim Gill is.
You don't think that that's what our district attorney or any of that's supposed to do you? Now that'd be ridiculous. I thought district attorneys were supposed to just go after their political opponents. I mean, that's the representation that we see right now.
He's doing.
So I asked Dave Robinson, when you sued for defamation, was it as a private citizen or as an elected official? And he said, no, private citizen. And so I said, so why is Sim Gill representing her on a personal lawsuit? And it was a good question. So
that's a great question. He's an elected official.
Mm-hmm. They're not supposed to represent personal lawsuits in that situation, you know, in any situation. So that's why I started continuing to be nosy. I reached out and started asking other questions. I asked the Salt Lake County Council, what's going on? Why is Sim Gill representing somebody in a personal lawsuit? So basically it was a lot of that, just my being nosy, why our government, why taxpayers are funding personal lawsuits when we have real serious crimes that need that attention.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, Sim Gill's not big on serious crime. He doesn't care. So, you know, there's a lot of attention that he does not paying to serious criminals. So did you do a grammar request when it came down to
grammar request? Because I wanted to know if he was representing her. I emailed him and asked him if he was representing her, and he said he wasn't. So when I filed the grammar request to ask if he was, the answer I got, and I don't have the email with me, the email I received indicated he was representing her, which led to asking more questions. Why is he representing her? He's admitted it right now. So I was told that the mayor, Mayor Wilson, was responsible for allowing him to do that. So I reached out to her and said, why are you letting Sim Gill represent somebody on a personal lawsuit? It just got bigger and bigger. It was like this spider web of lies here and more deceit, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then I find out that Log Cabin's Utah chapter is canceled. I reached out to Gow and said, why? And it's all appeared to be related. And then, which is
Canceled from what?
Canceled from, it's a national
They dropped the organization like on Nerds when they dropped Lambda.
So the state is able to do that? Was it
No,
the state doing it, or was it?
It's the Log Cabin Republicans that did that.
Okay, so they dropped the chapter.
And then I wanted to know why. And Gowd wanted to know why too, because he's the president of Log Cabin. He was told that 17 elected officials had complained to National Log Cabin. And they named two of them. One was Amy Winder Newton and one was Todd Weiler. And because of their complaining, they canceled Utah's chapter.
How does this happen? This is like the gay chapter, Log Cabin Republicans. How do you go after a gay chapter and not have repercussions?
No. So then I started asking Todd Weiler, did you call and complain to National Log Cabin about Gowd? Because we're being told that you did. You are one of them, and Amy was another. And they denied it.
But how would these people know who Todd Weiler is in the National without actually getting a call from him?
Yeah, probably because he identified himself. You know what? I've noticed that elected employees like to use that title and clout to try to have an impact. You know, I'm the representative in Davis County, and I'm Representative Todd Weiler or Senator Todd Weiler or whatever title they have. They use a lot of clout that way to get answers or to get action.
I'm just shocked that they were dishonest. I would never expect that from an elected officer.
No. I get along well with Todd Weiler. I think his X account keeps me laughing, and he really trolls people. And, you know, sometimes I really appreciate people who can just be funny and get people up on their, their panties in a bunch. But, and I also get along. Yeah, I get along well with Amy Winder Newton through her campaign for governor. I know she was in a really tough campaign, as they all were during that time. Mm-hmm. But after all of this, and I still hope to have her on the show, because there's a lot of important questions that are society. There was a societal witch hunt for a time. Her name was attached to it. There is the Log Cabin Republicans, and her name's attached to that. And there's this Equality Utah, and now her name's attached to that. And this bathroom thing or locker room thing, her name is attached to it. And I'm just thinking, how does one woman have so much light on her and is in the governor's office? I know she's got an amazing family. She's got great kids. She's done a great job, raising them, and she's got faith. But then I sit back and go, how is she the constant here? What's going on?
And that's exactly why I'm being nosy. And the problem is when you get nosy and hold your elected officials accountable for their actions, they don't like it, especially when they shouldn't be doing something. And so the more questions I was asking, I felt on behalf of citizens of this state. I turn around and I'm out shopping at the mall. My son calls me. He sounds frightened. He says, "Mom, there was a guy here and you've got a summons." And I'm like, "A summons? From who?" it says Amy Winder Newton. And I'm like, what in the heck?
What was she suing you over? Defamation or what? What is she accusing you of?
It was just a summons, and it was really thick. And for some reason, my name was added onto this lawsuit involving Dave Robinson and Scott Miller. And I'm like, how in the heck how did she do that? What right did she have to add my name on that? Because I'm asking questions, which I have every right as a tax-paying citizen of my elected employees. They work for us.
Oh, hey.
Work for us in government,
It's
not
true.
target citizens like this. And so
And you were never accused of being sexually harassing any of them, but now you're part of this because you questioned
right,
them.
right.
Mm.
And is this how they're allowed to respond to private citizens exercising their First Amendment rights, holding their these elected employees to accountability? Is that
How long ago was this, Sylvia?
this was just before New Year's? I got the summons
This year.
on the 29th of 2023 of December.
And this happened. This accusation is years old, right?
This whole when I first got involved asking for the sexual harassment proof was back in 2021. Yes.
Mm.
And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden it involved Log Cabin and Gowd with the same kind of accusations.
So this lawsuit's over that deal and not the log cabin getting canceled.
No.
Because now there's no log cabin chapter, correct? There's
inside this summons, what she is complaining about is that my questions are inappropriate.
says who?
Her.
Says,
Mm.
this is baffling to me.
Mhm.
And then you don't know if she's speaking on behalf of the governor's office or if she's speaking on behalf of Amy Winder Newton, or if she's speaking on behalf of the ladies and the victims. Like this is one of the questions you had. Wait a minute. Are you talking for the governor? Are you representing Equality Utah?
I even sent an email and asked the governor. I said, is she acting on behalf of the director of families? You know, she's on your staff. The answer, I even filed a grammar request to see the communications, if there was anything tied into the sexual harassment. The answer I got back from Cox's staff was, your questions aren't specific enough, but even if they are, we're not going to answer. I have emails, I have screenshots of these.
And you paid for a grammar request like some of us have done multiple times in my life.
Yeah, they will waive fees, and if there's not a lot of research involved.
But either way,
Mm-hmm.
but can they edit the information you get? I mean, a grammar request is literally asking for the proof of your employee and the work they've done. They're not allowed to tell you no.
Well,
you're a citizen, right?
They did. This is Cox's office that told me they weren't going to answer, even if I was very specific.
Were you already a candidate then for running for governor?
I was thinking about it back in October, November, because of how things were proceeding and being ignored. And it wasn't just this, it's as a citizen wanting some elected employees to do something on behalf of us as citizens, where we have concerning issues like drug addiction. How are we going to handle certain situations with suicide? What are our taxes being used for? And that was one of the things. Why are taxpayers paying for Amy Winder to target private citizens because they ask questions? Taxpayers are footing the bill when Sim Gill represents her.
We're being fleeced.
Mm-hmm.
They're still in the silverware as the Titanic sinks.
Exactly.
As the nation collapses,
Mm-hmm.
everybody in political office right now is trying to get theirs.
Yeah.
That's it.
So when you filed to run for governor, when?
On the 8th of January, I am the kind of person when I am tired and I'm done waiting for action and somebody to listen to me, and I see something needs to be done, and I'm looking at all this corruption in our government at the hands of people we're supposed to be trusting. Well, they're politicians. Get to a point where, okay, I ask other people how they can help. I'm done. I'll just get in and do it myself. And if it takes me running for governor to find out and stop this corruption, stop these games, finding out how our taxes are being used, it opened a whole other can of worms. I'm hearing about this and I'm hearing about that. I'm hearing about the gondola. I'm hearing about Major League Sports. It just doesn't end.
Oh my goodness. Oh, the Major League Sports thing and building a stadium, that infuriates me. And we've talked about it on this show. And I'm a Raiders fan and I love the $2 billion stadium in Las Vegas. But I also know Las Vegas citizens paid for that stadium when the billionaire didn't have to pay for it. And Las Vegas citizens can't even afford a ticket in the stadium because they're outpriced. And then I hear they want to build one here. And I'm like, are you kidding?
You know what that's technically called? When the government and corporations align, that's the definition of fascism.
Oh.
That is Mussolini's definition of fascism, not modern leftist definition of fascism that, you know, you're the gender you're born with and you believe that, you know, the government shouldn't be in your pocket or in your bed. It's Mussolini's definition of fascism.
Yes. And it is distressing. It was very, very concerning to me when there are things that we need. I mean, start on our roads, for crying out loud.
Well, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Let's because we've only got, 50 minutes left. So let's hear about what your goals. We've heard about kind of what prompted you to run for governor, but let's hear about, as governor, what are your goals? And while you do that, I'm going to show your website on the screen, if that's okay.
Yeah, you guys go check out our website because this is how you get to know people. And Sylvia is also on X and Facebook, and it's Sylvia with a Y.
Yep,
and
it's sylviaforgov.com, SYLVIA, the number 4gov.com. So tell us about your spiel. Give us your rundown.
To start from the beginning and clean out our government, we need to root out all the bad characters. I am going through this to uncover the corruption. It needs to stop. And it is so much corruption. I am encouraging all the listeners and viewers and voters, vote and impose voter term limits. I encourage everyone to vote for somebody that is not an incumbent or previously elected. We are living the meaning of insanity by continuously to vote on people who are in office. I am a candidate that has no ties to any special interest groups. I'm not a politician. I'm not an attorney. If we want change and cleaning up our government, I am that choice.
That's incredible. I ask every candidate that's been on the show with us, and we're grateful to every one of you that are willing to share your time with us. And we can't guarantee a million views, but we certainly can guarantee an open conversation. And I appreciate you being on tonight. And that's why we did this special show on Wednesday, because I wanted to get your story out. That first hour was important because you aren't a politician. You're a mom and you're damn pissed off. And I think so many of us feel like, what can we do? I mean, this is Jared and I's way of fighting back in a way by trying to inform people of the issues and hopefully entertain a little while we're doing it, if possible. We don't do it for money. We certainly don't do it because we've got free time, we do it because I know that it's important to us. It's important to let people know what's going on in your government, because he's got the black pill of like, this is going to burn, and I've got the red pill of hope. But I also know there's a lot of real issues that aren't going to turn overnight. And I constantly ask candidates, are you willing to run your job as if you're not getting reelected? If candidates knew there was no reelection, I think far more would get done.
Yeah, if they weren't out peddling. I mean, honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially this latest thing. It seems like establishment Republicans in the party on a national level are out to sabotage the people with the constant retirements. I mean, we're looking at, if they oust was Johnson, there's a good chance a Democrat will get the speakership. And you're just like that one guy from Ohio or wherever just retired so he can go work for a defense contractor. Honestly, I think when you go into public office, when you get out, if you want to keep your retirement, that's it.
Right.
I'm saying it ends. There's no lobbying. You can't work for anyone else. You can write a book and collect your retirement, period. And I want that period to be in, you can do all the rest of writing in 12 font. I want the period to be in like 38 font.
But that takes freedoms away.
I don't care, because when you're signing up to serve the populace, that is a voluntary action.
I agree. You know how I feel. But also you've mentioned it actually and made me really reconsider. There are lobbyists. There's a reason we have lobbyists.
No,
some do it for good.
I agree. But I think that if you're going to sign your name to, just like that one time I joined the Army, I signed up and said, hey, if we're exchanging lead with someone else, I'll stand in the way of that.
Yeah.
When you're signing your name up saying, I'm going to be a part of Congress and I'm going to get this health benefit and this retirement, even if I only serve 4 years, I get this retirement forever. I get this health benefit forever. I get special circumstances forever. They're getting well compensated for what they do. So after that, you're done. You can write books and collect your retirement.
Well, you know what? That happens in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. You get 20 years of singing and performing, or until you reach the age of 60. And once you get that to the age of 60, you are done. They close the door. You have nothing more to do with the choir. You go on with your life.
People can't sing after 60?
Yeah, you sing until you're 60. And it just gives more opportunity, because there's a lot of people that want to audition and be a part of that. So you can have 20 years of singing, or until you're the age of 60. That's why I only got 19 years, because I reached 60 and had to age out and retire.
I can't believe you're 60.
So that you reach 60, what, in 10 years?
Yeah, you're still waiting for 60.
So
you are
20,
such a
30
beautiful
what?
woman. I mean, you're a beautiful woman, and I think it's your strength, it's your light, and it's certainly your convictions. But I mean, woman to woman, I just think that women that stop giving a crap about what other people think are just so beautiful to me. There's just something neat about it.
Part of my strength is, a lot of my upbringing is, I am doing this because the day will come, I answer to only one person, and that's to God. And I will have to stand before him and answer for my actions. And we are watching evil versus good right now.
Yeah.
And nowhere have we been taught, nowhere is it in the scriptures to just give up, because that's how it's supposed to be in the last days. Our Heavenly Father requires us to endure to the end, and we have to keep fighting for goodness in this life.
Even if we're fighting alone.
Yes, because I am going to have to face him and answer for my actions, and that's why I don't give up.
Sylvia, I know and you share what you feel comfortable with sharing, but I want to get into what you mentioned regarding mental illness and addiction.
Yes.
And in our county, we used to have drug court. We used to have, a lot of these people who are arrested right now. It's not because, sure, they're committing these nonviolent crimes in order to supply a habit, and throwing them in jail doesn't help them. It either makes them better criminals, or they're still getting drugs in some
Didn't
of
our
these
drug
jails.
court judge end up going to jail though?
I don't know, but
I know he
a lot,
got in trouble.
I know a lot of people have benefited truly from drug court, and I know our sheriff has appealed numerous times because he doesn't want to lock up these addicts. He wants a program. He wants options, because yes, we need to fill the jail, but we have a mental health crisis in this country, and our young people are using drugs to get through.
Right.
I have addiction in my family, and I have seen the craziest, worst, ugliest side of addiction. And I have a brother that is recovering, and another that's battling. I know it's every day, every second, every minute. It's a problem. It's a problem.
It's a nightmare to watch, especially when it's your children. Watch them change into people you don't know because of drugs. It was the most heartbreaking thing. And half of me, it still is very grief stricken. I don't like to sleep at night because I wake up to a nightmare that my son is dead. And at the same time, because of my belief in life after this mortality, I know my son is at peace and he's not in pain anymore. And so my heart feels that relief. He was diagnosed when he was 5 with type 1 diabetes. So I have watched this young man struggle with his health all his life. And when I came home and found him in his room, I was grateful that I found him, because in advocating for drug addiction, I know a lot of my friends weren't that fortunate to be the ones to find their child. They end up homeless, and they'll get a phone call from the police or the coroner. That's how they find out that their child is dead. And so I am blessed and comforted that I'm the one that found my son and he was home.
Yeah.
This is a life-changing crisis that I feel no one is covering, no one is concerned enough about in our government.
Sylvia,
They
this
have to do something.
this you found your son 2 weeks ago.
It was a month ago.
A month ago.
Yes.
You were already in the fight for governor. He was your big supporter. This is your baby, right? Your youngest, who you went to Log Cabin Republicans with.
Yeah.
I don't think you're living a nightmare most parents can't even comprehend. And yet your faith, like mine, grief is an animal that no one can understand until they're in it. And you're grateful that you get through it. But I think it would have killed me to lose my father and not know God is beside me while I am grieving. And God has made a promise to me that I get to see him again in heaven, thanks to Jesus Christ and his sacrifice. And that gets me through. When you let us know, because we'd actually had an interview planned, and you let us know that you couldn't be in the interview because of what you were going through, I was just baffled. My heart broke for you. But your strength, I see you coming out swinging against this, in your view, corruption, which I'm not going to say, I have to say alleged, because we don't know what we don't know. But I saw you come out swinging on X, and I was like, damn, this woman is a fighter. She's not going anywhere. You have my utmost respect. And I know you don't want sympathy from people. That's not what you want. But my heart is with you. And I can only imagine that you're being tested in a way that you're going to get through because of your faith. But I can only imagine you probably wanted to quit a few times, because a race like this is so hard. This is like the epitome of hard.
It's work.
But
And because my son was the biggest supporter and he knows me so well, he lived with me, I am not a quitter. And he knew there were times in the past month where I could feel his spirit
Yeah.
still giving me encouragement. Come on, Mom, you're a fighter. You cannot give up. This is not you. You started this, you finished this. I'm still here.
That's beautiful. And I think so many people that I know who are battling with grief right now, I mean, they're in the throes of it. And I think, well, I went through it, and so maybe I can help others. No, it's so hard. The only thing I have is you're not alone. You will get through it. You're right in the midst, but those moments, those warm moments, are your loved one saying, I'm right here. And if it's not them, it's God himself.
Yes.
Saying, I'm right here. They're here. They're home. They're safe. So I think that, again, yes, you're a brown woman. You're a beautiful woman. You're a strong woman. You have love of the gay community. And now you're a mom who has struggled with the loss of a child who was more than, I mean, he was everything to you, but he was struggling. And you see how our state is lacking. I see how our county is lacking in providing a mental health option,
Right.
a drug rehab option. But people, I know as well as anyone, you cannot stop someone from doing drugs if they're not ready to stop. But it owns them. It owns them.
About drug addiction too. There are the innocent victims. When my older son was arrested and put in jail, and my little 5-year-old grandson saw his dad going to jail, he stopped talking. That's when I started getting very involved in drug awareness. Where's the programs to help the innocent victims and the family members going through this? Where are the programs to help me get through the grief of losing my child? But watching my little grandson, I didn't know where to turn. I have one of my friends, Alema Harrington, who I worked with at the Utah Jazz. I turned to him. I said, where are the programs? I turned to Sean Reyes and I said, where's the programs to help the innocent victims? There aren't any. There's some efforts, but that's one issue that I want to push for, is helping the innocent victims like these children who are losing their parents and have to be raised by grandparents.
I've watched the show Intervention so many times. In fact, I actually sent a letter to them and they accepted it. They were going to put my brothers on the show. The only problem was my father was in law enforcement. They wanted my father in that show, which my dad was prepared to do, but he'd had a surgery, his 4th broken neck in the line of duty. Yeah, he goes big or goes home, but he couldn't be available, and the show couldn't do it without him. And basically it would be the first time they did a double, 2 kids, 1 family with law enforcement. I digress. I know well enough to know, and through my own experience, that even if you get a kid through rehab and they come out ready to take on the world, if the family hasn't had help,
right,
the chances of them, you'll never trust them again. Yeah. You've burned every bridge with them, and here they are trying to earn your trust, and you become a blockade in their recovery because you're still angry and you still fear and you're still worried, and all of this turns around and hurts their recovery when you want to believe them, but at the same time, like you're jaded. And you're exactly right. Is it Narcanon? It
Narcan?
Narcan. Well, or there's a group that is for families.
The Narcanon, isn't that a Scientology group?
I don't know. I know there's a It's like Narcotics Anonymous, but for families. But that again is a private entity. And
Right.
I mean, there's nothing from stopping a group of moms and dads or kids to start a group, but it would sure be nice before Equality Utah's getting money from the state or Planned Parenthood is getting paid from the state. It would be nice to have a program set aside, because I know our county used to have assistance to where when someone went to jail, there was an option. Yeah, we're going to put you on ankle monitor, but you're going to report to drug court every single week, and you're going to drug test every single week, and we're going to make sure you're employed, and we're going to make sure you're doing the 12 steps.
Right.
And even if it's just to get out of drug court, but it was a 3-year commitment. So if you've committed for 3 years, your chances of going back to it were smaller. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm one of those that don't like big government or big programs. But our young people right now, the mental illness they're suffering is a lot due to our own government.
Right.
Well, our economy, our social pushes that are coming down, young men, especially young men, and especially young white men, are persona non grata in this nation, and their opportunities for finding relationships, for moving forward in careers, are disappearing because, as it says on your website, the DEI programs, and also there's a cultural push where they can't even find a substantial date, and maybe it's just a sign of the internet appearing, and options are exploding for young ladies that were never there before. So they're, of course, they're just becoming part of a stable for the ultra wealthy men, but that's still something that they're choosing over the young man that lives down the street. It's a cultural thing we're going to have to go through. So young men are either drifting into video games, or sadly, some of them are finding solace in substance, and that's exploding. And then I think because of the substance, you get exacerbation of mental issues, and then our homeless population explodes. And, maybe when they read about this in the future, they'll read about it like they did the fall of Rome and say, look at all these mistakes that were made. All of them were avoidable.
Well, one thing that really got me asking more questions of our elected officials is my children that are school teachers in junior high. They have told me that they're very concerned that a third of their students are on Xanax or mood altering drugs.
Wow.
Depressed. And the thing is,
A
the
third.
Xanax is doctors will cut them off because they're abusing it. Well, what happens is when they can't get that from the doctor, they will go to the internet. The drug dealers and cartels are targeting children in that situation to buy drugs online. And this is where we are faced with a crisis right now. The number one cause of death, which is fentanyl poison and illicit drugs from 15 to 45.
Well, because people get cut off, and even people with chronic pain, a regular mom, a soccer mom who is dealing with a terribly horrible chronic disease, and all of a sudden they decide you can't have an opiate anymore. Instead of, hey, let's wean you off, or let's look for some other option. So she's going to a stranger and buying a pill or 2 pills, and it kills her that first one.
The issue is that
the children are the ones that are accessing the internet and getting those drugs. They have codes to lure children. They're using the emojis, and they pretend that they're DoorDash or delivering food, and it's bringing a pill or 2, and it's fentanyl poison. It's not even a Xanax.
Yeah, well, and the opioid crisis, I mean, that's being worked through the courts right now, that exploded 20 years ago because the inventors of the opioids, or the pharmaceutical companies, the thing we're supposed to throw all our trust in and the science, whatever, they came out and promised that, oh no, this stuff's not addictive and it's not
Absolutely.
bad. There's no damaging aspects to it. Someone gets in a car wreck or someone has, a sports injury in high school.
Yes.
Next thing you know, they're addicted for life. Their life that was promising. And we're talking in the 90s when the USA was still a functioning nation.
That's when my first son had developed that problem. He was injured playing high school football and was prescribed painkillers.
Oxycontin.
I'm not sure which one. I know it was an opiate, Percocet or something, but that continues. And
my parents had a friend in small town Utah. She was probably 75, had back surgery. They prescribed her Oxycontin, and that's highly addictive, but they sold it like this is the best pain pill you can get.
No,
and now
not addictive. No
Percocet is
downside.
addictive, but you don't get addicted in the first bottle, even 30 pills, especially if you take them as directed, right? Same with Lortab and Narco and the like. Oxycontin was its own baby because you got a prescription from a doctor for 30 pills. Your brain and body are so fully addicted. The first prescription taken as directed to where this woman, this 70 plus year old woman is now fully addicted to opiates after one prescription and has to go check herself into rehab because her brain and and losing
she has to
it
get on methadone in her
pretty
70s.
much. And never had she ever had any addiction. And she's not alone. In fact, when the idea of legalizing medicinal marijuana was out there, people were adamant, no opioids, this new opiate is going to be better. And yet the people who were using medicinal marijuana were having zero addiction effects. They were still getting through it, whereas the opiate was so highly addictive and sold. Oxycontin was lawsuits.
You guys
I bet
wanna-
they're still coming in.
Time for the historical interesting fact is that heroin or morphine was invented to break the opiate addiction for the same thing, and heroin was invented to break the morphine addiction for the same thing. Opiates are a dangerous animal, and it's constantly the next thing's invented and then the next thing and then synthetic. And now we got the stuff that's hitting the streets. It's killing people that come into touch contact, and it's killing them.
Yeah, there's so many chemicals. I watched and might want to note, watch Mariana Von Zeller. She does Trafficked, and it's season 1, episode 2. She goes to the jungles in Mexico and to super labs where biochemical engineers are deliberately making fentanyl poison. They know it's lethal, and when they are in the labs processing these chemicals, which they get from Asia, they are in full protective gear, gas masks, and not these little flimsy masks that
they're in hazmat gear.
Yes, they're in hazmat gear preparing it. He gets to a point where he says, I know it's ready because I'm feeling lightheaded. Even through all that protective gear, processing this poison, he's feeling lightheaded, so he knows it's ready.
But what is the benefit by killing the customer?
There are families. I belong to Lost Voices of Fentanyl, and there are several attorney generals. There's about, I'm not sure how many states, 15 to 20, who are making fentanyl poison a weapon of chemical war.
A weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Because it can kill so many people. Just the dust has killed law enforcement, has made them sick, has killed little kids.
Well,
just the dust.
The reason that they choose fentanyl is because, one, bang for the buck, transportation costs and risk. That's why they choose it, because they can haul 1 pound is worth 40 pounds of the lesser stuff. And so that's easier to transport. They can tape it to a leg,
And it
they
kills
can
more.
carry it in a pocket, and then they take it and they use it to step on. They can step on it more times and spread it out. So that 1 pound can spread further than 30 pounds can. And that depletes the risk to them, depletes the risk to their mules. And also, I'm going to say this, I think China is subsidizing this by giving them low cost. Now, I've said before, I don't feel like Chinese military is a threat of invasion to us, though I'm starting to question that with what's coming through the southern border. But China is more than happy to tear our culture apart. I know the government's going to go after TikTok because it's right there and in the open, and it's easy because TikTok is really on the up and up. But we do have to treat fentanyl as a weapon of war being sent over here. And I believe China's all in. They're all on board.
The stressing is that this chemical engineer, he says 100% of what I'm making goes to the United States. We don't keep it here in Mexico. So it's different. It's
they don't want to hurt their own people.
Or with this. And it's killing 300 plus citizens a day. And what are we doing? How are we bringing that awareness? We all heard about COVID. We all heard about masks. Why are we not hearing about this real crisis?
Why are we not shutting down the border where this is actually coming over in mass quantities? What they found alone, just what they found alone could murder the United States.
The Democrats really just want to get the population up in the inner city so they get more congressional seats.
Sounds like it.
I mean, this is the thing, like nothing surprises me. So when you decided to run and you're married, how many children do you have?
Divorced now. I have 6 children.
Okay, so 6. Is that all? My goodness. And you look like that? My goodness. So there's hope. I have 2, and I'm starting to go.
She's 35, so she's still spry.
Right.
15 grandchildren with 1 on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
That's exciting. Well, so here you are running for governor because you were just insane, obviously. And I assume, and I could be wrong, but I assume you're running convention only.
You know what? This is another interesting thing is I did file to get signatures because I really wanted to fight.
Right.
And I was advised this is the only way. This is what they're doing. And so I filed, and I had been working on the state flag initiative. So I was very familiar with getting signatures on petitions. And I thought, well, I'll probably just be able to get some volunteers and do this myself. I'm not going to have to pay to get on a ballot. And the corruption, in my opinion, is right there too. It took me 5 weeks to get the registered Republican voter list from the party. And when I got the paperwork for the signatures, it took me 3 full days by myself to put these packets together, and then to organize and get volunteers to go. I started hearing how much the people with money, the candidates with money, were paying, and I even reached out to some of these signature companies. And realized there's a lot of money just to pay to get on a ballot, and I could not pay.
It created the SB 54, literally created a whole new industry.
It's a racket. It's an unethical racket. These politicians that file to get signatures, they've got their hundreds of thousands of dollars ready to pay these companies. One of these guys told me that I would have to pay $15 a signature. That's almost $500,000.
Yeah. $500,000 sounds about right. What we've heard candidates have to come up with and fundraise for.
These politicians for money. And I guarantee the politicians that filed and paid to get signatures haven't even done it themselves. They're not the ones out there traipsing around door to door. I was experienced in doing that. I knew the
Yeah.
work involved, and it just was horrifying.
You know,
what our government allows for establishment to stay in power.
I hate SB 54. I hate that someone can spend the money and get on a ballot. I love the convention where they have to campaign to 4,000 instead of 3 million people. And you can get regular people like yourself into a representative situation to where, you know, a real person can be the governor of a state or a senator of a state. But SB 54 has, I hate to discount those people who sign, but talking to people who have signed, I get angry because they're talking to a 20-year-old who doesn't know much about the candidate. They're just, here, read this. Can we get your signature? And I think about the candidates and I think, geez, don't you want to be, I mean, $500,000?
Yes.
That's awful cheap when it comes to getting you in a primary.
That's what I was finding out when I was going door to door. I was so surprised. It was like night and day from getting signatures for the flag initiative. I would go ring a doorbell and I would say, I'm getting signatures for a Republican candidate who's running for governor. Okay. And they would sign it. And I would stand there and half of them think that it's just a process that we use to get on a ballot. And no, finally it got to the point where I'm like, well, I'm the one running for governor. Oh, that's great. They wouldn't ask me for a flyer. They just think it's a process. And that's concerning because it's not a process.
By design.
It's how establishment pays to stay in power.
Count my vote. It was the most genius marketing campaign of all time that took away the power from the convention system. Mm-hmm. And all because Michael Lee upset the establishment when he was elected.
So I am depending on the delegates. I'm still waiting to get the final list of delegates. And so that's still distressing. You know, with our technology in this day and age, why is it still taking so long to get a state delegate list?
What are you missing on it? Are you missing whole counties?
I haven't really accessed it yet. I've had some counties reach out to me and give me their state delegate list, but it's like, oh, well, they're not complete. Oh, we don't have them. And
well, we're not supposed to actually. I'm speaking for my county. What took so long? Oh my goodness. Breaking in a brand new system for convention and then whatever happened convention night. And then I've got a lot of my precinct chairs who weren't prepared to do it in the new way. And we tried to accommodate both ways, but then we put in all that data. We had private, you know, some of our leadership team, we were going through some stuff in our own lives and it got extended, but we got our list to the state and we keep it as a working list.
Right.
Because we needed regular Joes to put down their information in a legible format, give us their email, give us their phone number. And having ran a campaign myself, I know that data is everything. Yeah. And so I hope you stay on top of the state party. You should have a full list.
Right.
And edit it as you go.
I just want to say something to the delegates. I'm a county delegate. As a producer for big projects in movie and TV, when you watch a movie and you see the credits at the end of a movie, every name named there is vital to the production of that movie. And in my opinion, everything that we do as citizens in this civic duty, delegates, county delegates, I've had county delegates tell me, I'm just a county delegate. I'm like, you are just as important as governor.
If not more.
All needed in this work of government. And so everyone, this is how I feel about delegates and precinct chairs. I've been both. You are just as important as governor. You are just as important as a representative or a senator. We need you all. And thank you for being delegates. And I appreciate everyone who is involved in this process of our government. It is by the people, for the people. We are in this together.
It's beautiful. And
Mhm.
it's so true. And even the county delegates to me are highly, highly important, because how your county votes and it affects your life more than the state, more than the national federal government.
This
It's
is true.
And it's that cog in the wheel. It doesn't spin without all of us. And that's so, so great.
I do know there's one precinct chair that is 67 and probably still has never personally sent an email or a text message in their life.
That's his sweet dad, who is a precinct chair.
I got voluntold into it, and he's like, had me go down there. I'm not even
He's not even a Republican.
And I had to go down there and help him run caucus because
Uh-huh.
he was.
But his dad is just the best. And you know what? It's our older members of this party that have kept this party on the rails, and it's the younger ones that have to bring it into light. And you say that you shouldn't have to say a conservative Republican, but you and I both know there is a difference between a Republican and a conservative. Just like, you know, I'm hoping that it grows. I hope that whoever is representing me is thinking of my freedom before they're thinking of programs or taxes or anything. If it's making me less free, if it's making their children more strapped when it comes to debt, then they need to rethink their vote. And if it's making mental awareness or mental health awareness worse by sitting across from someone and confirming or affirming the fact that, yeah, God makes mistakes. You were born in the wrong body. You can't do that. God doesn't make mistakes.
We make mistakes.
We do. And society does, and culture does. And our only job, I think, is souls, individual souls and spirits on this planet, is to love and be loved, to give and to serve and to be kind, but to stand up when you've got to. You can't keep up a lie. You can't comply. And the second the government tells you what to do, they're out of line. They work for you.
Right.
But we've forgotten that.
Mhm.
Death by 1,000 cuts. We have forgotten that. And my parents are guilty. My grandparents were the greatest generation, but even they are guilty. We're all guilty. Okay, a little bit more. And now we've got the Patriot Act because 9/11 happened. And then now they get extension of the Patriot Act and more and more and more. It's just become, our freedoms are gone. And
man, if only we'd listened to that Dr. Ron Paul.
Dr. Ron Paul and even his son. I mean, logic is there.
We've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
And I went through your website.
Sorry, I'm in a dark room.
You're fine.
You look
You're
great.
fine.
The lighting is great.
Yeah, I want you to give your spiel for governor. What do you plan on doing? And while you do that, I'm going to put your website back up. Everyone go check out her website, but give us your spiel.
One sec. How would you feel if we played one of your videos from X?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Remember, our video system doesn't bring sound in very well.
Everybody, give us your X account.
But if you go to her website, her videos are on her website.
It does have words underneath people can read if it's not audible enough.
But yeah, give us your spiel for governor. What are your plans? People elect you. What is your day one through 4 years? What are you going to work towards doing? Overall goals. Because of all the corruption, it's important to instill that integrity and that honesty. And yesterday, I was talking to Glenn. He is my ex-husband. He helps me a lot. And he said, you know what? It's kind of like that meme that tells us we need to, instead of rewriting the Constitution, we need to just reread it. And I was going through our Utah Republican platform,
And that's the foundation. Here's one part that really is part of that. It is about ethics and standards. It says we demand honesty, integrity, morality, and accountability of our public officials. We will work to expose and stop corruption. I look up the duties of governor. I will ensure that our elected officials are doing their job as legislators. They need to be working for the people and not special interest groups. We need to make sure that our public trusts our government again. And there's a lot to do just to start. And so,
That is a lot.
yeah.
How do we do that, Sylvia? I mean, how do we get the American people to trust the representatives again? Is it transparency in all things?
It has to be, because these backroom deals, like we watched with the sports arena saga. I still have friends that work at the Utah Jazz, and when I hear that the Jazz owner is hosting elected officials days before this was voted on in legislation, that's distressing. That is not the purpose of our government. Our government is to govern and enforce laws and enact laws, not to provide business opportunities for the rich. And
come on, it's just a little bit slimy.
And if that is why people are getting elected into office, they need to resign and go into business. They have no purpose being in government.
They may not succeed in business because business is hard.
I just want to point out, I have gone an hour and 56 minutes and I haven't said the G word.
The G word is guillotine, because he's of the old ways and doesn't understand why the guillotine hasn't been brought back. Because, let them eat cake. I mean, this is what our government is doing, right?
We have, right now they'll get up there and they'll scream and cry about other world leaders and send our young men overseas to topple them. But come on, if the U.S. was looking at us, the U.S. would send the U.S. Army to topple our corrupt government.
Yeah, we'd be a threat.
Yes.
Governor Cox just released a email that mentions that we are not a sanctuary state. And I've been really impressed with his go get him attitude these last 6 months.
Well, because he get reelected. He's anything.
I didn't say it, but I think it's funny that our governor is decided to let the world know we're not a sanctuary state. We're not a sanctuary, but Salt Lake has been a sanctuary city for as long as I can remember.
Actions speak louder than words, and he is lying to us. I have friends who work in transportation. I've been getting messages and phone calls. We just dropped off a big group of illegal immigrants. They have no coats. They have no food, nowhere to go. So we are being lied to. And like I said, I lived in Mexico. I know what the poor look like.
Yeah.
And what is coming across our border, they are well funded. It's well organized. The poor,
they're not even Mexican.
Or backpacks or coats or cell phones. So whoever is funding them, it's deliberate and it's insidious and it needs to stop. And
it's an invasion.
As a governor, I'm not going to lie, nor am I going to allow this to happen. We, as the governor, is his job to enforce the laws, and it's not being done.
If you're elected, this would be an enormous upset. We all know that. You'll have legislators that will. Well, we already know they don't respect you. They will challenge you. As a governor, how can you serve as our representative while also bringing a legislative body to work with you.
Right. Luckily, elections come up. I encourage my friends and people I trust, people I know, get involved now, run for office. We're seeing what our elected officials are doing. Replace them. Use your energies, all your resources. Do what I'm doing. Get in there and run for office. Give the people an option of somebody who's not in establishment or an incumbent, because we want change. We're demanding change. Stop voting for the same politicians.
That's the actual definition of insanity, right? Expecting a different result and continuing to vote the way you do. I think Governor Cox, I think he assumes he's got the win because he's the incumbent. I've seen it so many times with incumbents. And I know a lot of local incumbents, I'm like, hey, always run like it's
how many
like
states,
you don't have the win. And they're like, oh, I never assumed that, because locally you do have a chance of losing your seat. Just
how many states does the incumbent's partner in office run the election though?
Exactly. And that, the signature thing too is running for governor. My signatures were going to be verified by Deidre.
We
That's
need to
the
get rid of
lieutenant
that.
governor.
Yeah.
We need to have a separate commission that handles elections.
Secretary, we used to have one.
Yeah,
Is that
because
elected or is that
It's appointed.
appointed?
and you know what, elected, appointed, I don't know. Nevada's ran our deer hunts forever. Let's see if Nevada wants to pull it off.
I don't want Nevada running our elections. They
Right.
actually were absolutely messed up during the last 2020 election.
Well, when they ran our deer hunts, it seemed to work a little better than now that Utah takes it over.
Deer hunting, voting. No, I get it.
One's way more important.
Deer hunting, right?
100%.
Well, now, just out of curiosity, I mean, he just mentioned getting rid of DEI. I mean, all of this has come up in the last 6 months, and it's like music to my ears. I'm like, yay.
But
Someone
is it really being eliminated, or are they disguising it? See, whatever our government is telling us, I don't believe them anymore. They have completely destroyed my trust. So when Cox says we're not a sanctuary state, I know we are, because I'm witnessing people come. When he says that we've gotten rid of DEI, I've lived racism. I've experienced real racism, and he's not getting rid of DEI. He's too beholden to these special interest groups.
they're renaming it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Monica Klein, or Natalie Klein and Monica Wilbur were on our show a couple weeks ago. And Natalie said she sat through an Equality Utah type meeting. And basically she sat there, they treated her terribly. They followed her around. It was just really bad. But she remembers sitting in a session where they were going over this, how you get around the DEI rules or the critical race theory. And essentially one teacher goes, well, how are you getting away with this? Well, we're not sending it home with the child.
Right.
There's no proof at the end of the day. And we don't call it this anymore. We call it this.
Right.
And that's exactly what the left has done, and the right. They're renaming, they're redefining, they're changing words, and they're still screwing up our kids. They're messing with our babies, and we're not fighting back hard enough. And if we do, we're considered domestic terrorists.
Right.
Or unagreeable. And yet, wait a second, our children are growing up thinking they're not enough, or worse, that they are the problem when they're innocent of racists and they never owned slaves, and they're just as new to it as children of color are.
Yeah.
And so when are we going to break this? No, we're going to actually indoctrinate our kids to hate themselves. And then they're going to hate their parents. And then they hate God because they're born in the wrong body. And they're not special if they don't have a letter in the ABC group.
Right.
And this breaks my heart because the kids who really are legitimately born this way are saying, whoa, 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 breaks.
Yes.
We wanted to be equals, not better than, not highlighted. We wanted to be equals and just live our lives. That's all we wanted. And we fought this battle for 30 plus years. And now we got it. And you guys are taking this battle and you're driving it. You're driving it. And you're turning people against us when all we wanted was to just be left alone.
Right. Just let us live our lives. Let us be who we are.
I appreciate you running. I can't even imagine the difficulty that you're going through with the grief that you're facing and all of that. I hope you know that you have my utmost respect, and I would absolutely understand if you were like, this is too much. But I also understand that when you are in a grieving situation, we all deal with it differently, but your fire is probably going to help you get through this, and this race is going to help you. And I hope to help you. Let's get you in front of delegates. Let's get you as much exposure as we can. You're welcome to share the video anywhere you like. We'll be sharing it. We have shared this live as all over. I'm running as a national delegate this go around. I'm very excited, and I'm pro-Trump all the way. And I some women just knew when they knew. Some of us had to be drug over, but I'm unapologetically supporting Donald Trump for this upcoming election. I'm excited for you. I appreciate you going convention only. Hopefully you can get in front of 4,000 people. Yes. We have a night out here on April 11th. And I believe I sent it to you. It's the Meet the Candidate night we're having out in Grantsville. So
I saw that. Yes, I'm planning on it.
Excellent. All of our state delegates are welcome and encouraged to be there. We've also invited our county candidates to get all of our county delegates out there. We've invited our central committee. We're inviting the public. It's an open house format to come in and meet Sylvia and learn about her campaign. And we just want to make sure also at convention, we're inviting the public as well to get in front of you, our state delegates. You only get so many opportunities to get in front of someone running for governor. You will not be disappointed having a conversation with this lovely, amazing woman. And I want to hear about your life with the jazz. I want to hear about your production and your life as a flight attendant. And you going to jail? I'm sorry, you skipped that part. My ears went whoop. But
yes. Well, what's so funny is when I hear a problem, a situation, I'm interested because I feel like I can help with support or understanding, because a lot of times I've experienced it.
Yeah. That's what maturity does for you. You actually learn a ton. Right. So what'd you go to jail for?
I was accused of assaulting my ex-husband.
That's fun.
And never mind the fact that for 3 years while we were married, he was physically abusive to the point where I had to run away to protect my life and my children.
Amazing. And were you convicted?
No, I pled no contest, and the judge had dismissed it as a civil suit.
Well, see, so you do know what accusations can do. So I'm assuming then you would probably be, our red flag laws and ending the Second Amendment and things like that. You probably believe a person should get due diligence or due process before you take guns away.
And the problem too was over 30 years ago, there were no domestic violence laws in place. Right. So I was enduring this physical abuse. I had no place to go. except for running away from my house to the neighbors or calling my bishop, and he would come and protect me. But the sense during that time without these laws was you just learned to live with it, or you just got divorced. The only way out was to get divorced, or you just sucked it up. And now there are laws to protect in domestic violence, but it's
And the police have received further training on
Mhm.
how to deal with it and hopefully spot it. And I'm hoping that bishops have received some kind of training to deal with it as well.
It was very
I don't
stressful.
know about that.
Felt like my bishop was the only place I could really go to for protection. It's just very sad before these laws were enacted how we dealt with domestic violence. We just lived with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you escaped in the middle of the night with clothes on your back and your children, and yet you can't take a pet, and that pet will probably be killed because it hurts you.
Right.
And I think it we need laws of course, but I've seen a lot of private organizations come out and fight for women who have been through that. And I love that. And then I've even seen organizations come out for men who've been falsely accused and
No,
people who are falsely accused.
And I have 5 sons, and I have seen, having experienced domestic violence, I have watched one of my sons especially experience domestic violence. Of domestic violence, 40% is women on men. And I lost my voice once when I was screaming on the phone because I was listening to him get hit by his wife. And it's horrifying because my sons aren't violent, especially this one. And to hear him just take it because he's the man. And that's the stigma. Men are not allowed to fight back because they're the man. You can't hit a woman back. So he didn't defend himself. He didn't hit her back. He called me asking for help. And I'm running out of my house with no shoes on, driving as fast as I can to Salt Lake City where they lived, screaming all the way, so stressed that I lost my voice and had to go on complete vocal rest for a month because of my screaming. It's just such a traumatic experience, but women on men domestic violence is just as serious.
Well, and you say 40%, but I bet you it's 90% of men don't report it.
Exactly, because they're the men.
And that's terrible.
Yeah, I've met your husband. He's not reporting at all.
He doesn't get to say a word. He talks from night to No, I think that when we raise our kids about hitting, I tell my daughter this: don't you ever hit a man if you don't expect to get hit back. I'm just saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I want my son to always stand up and in defense of women and never raise his hand to a woman, but also he's not allowed to take it either.
No. And I'm advocate for that. I have friends who I see are abused, even in front of us. And it's like, I can only imagine what happens when they're home alone.
Oh, yeah. This world has its secrets. Everybody has its secrets. And I think as we wrap this up, I think that you nailed it early on when you said the fight isn't, I mean, this is how I took it. It's not right versus left. It's good versus evil.
Right.
And you mentioned the Utah State Constitution, and as well as the United States Constitution is, we are a moral people. The second we aren't a moral people, these liberties do not matter. They don't count if you don't have moral people who are protecting them.
Yeah, these liberties can only apply to a moral populace.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we need to upset an apple cart once in a while.
It's time. I'm tired.
Well, we need to bring liberty back. I don't like bans. I'm one of those people that don't like bans. I think I also believe, though, that there are so many things happening. There's good things happening in Utah, yes, but there's a dark side to the economic growth. There's a dark side to developers, and that dark side usually involves a lobbyist somewhere, and it always involves our legislature. And I always say this to people: you hate SB 54, you sit here and tell me how terrible it is. but you're not voting it down.
They're doing nothing.
You, as the legislators, have all the power there,
Yes.
and you're not voting it down. You're not even creating a bill against it.
It's almost like their words don't match their actions.
What a surprise.
I know that's just how we've dealt with. Sylvia, thank you for coming on. Thank you for giving us our time. I look forward to meeting you in person at the Grantsville meet and greet.
Do it.
Yeah, this will be good. Not to denigrate Cox, but he has this year kind of shown up and acted in alignment with the general populace of his party. But up until this point, it's been a little discouraging. And regardless of what happens, I think strong competition such as yourself is what is needed. But I think it's 100% your message on voting incumbents out and continually doing that. I've been saying that for a minute.
Yes.
Holly doesn't like that idea because she thinks you'll lose seniority or.
No, I worry that the good ones.
I don't care.
Yeah, he's like,
I don't
get 'em
care.
out.
I think we need to just start, say you got a wash rag and you got a whole bunch of mud on the wash rag, but there's this little speck over there that's clean. You still throw the whole wash rag in the washing machine. And we need to start doing that.
You know,
I went there. It's time. It's time.
We need to start doing that. We need to start washing them out. And I'm going to say it right now. I'm not a member of the Republican Party or the Democrat Party or any of that because I think the parties are the cause of our destruction.
I do too. Yeah.
And we need to get rid of the party system that we're running with. We were warned against it by the first president, the second president, and the fourth president.
well, let's stop with baby steps, though. I mean, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Right now that we have parties, we can identify people. But I think you're right. When an
Our
incumbent
parties are
has
working
to vote,
against its people.
Yeah, when an incumbent has to vote like it's their last bite at the apple, I think you're right. I think we would see far better governance when you only get one
Right.
term and then you're done, and then it requires more people to step up. And yes, you're going to have bad ones, but that's over after this many years are up. So I mean, I'm starting to kind of get where you're at.
We would be far better served if our public officials were treated like jurors. They got a letter in the mail and they went, crap, what? I've got to go
Live
do
in the
this?
governor's mansion.
I've got to go do this for 4 years? Crap. This is awful. This stinks. They go there, they do it, and then when it's over, they're like, oh, thank God, I'm going to go home.
That's old school. That's way old school.
That's the way we were designed. And once they broke away from that design, how we doing? We doing good?
Corruption. We have a swamp.
Are we functioning?
And how do you feel about lobbyists? I know we should be gone, but I'm curious. You've got a lot of lobbying. You understand probably that having a log cabin Republicans is good for the Republican Party. Having a gay organization that believes in the platform and their voice is just booming when it comes to some of this corruption. And yet, why would we want them gone? I still can't wrap my
It's not that
mind
they
around
wanted
that.
them gone. They got rid of a state constituency to get rid of one person.
That blows my mind.
It's insane. So that tells
Perception
me
is everything.
that tells me,
and
and
that
here's-
looks terrible.
I've got a message now for you out there. Log Cabin Republican National Group. How retarded are you? Seriously, to get rid of one guy, you got rid of a whole state organization. I'm going to use
left
an
a
old army
vacuum,
saying,
is what it
how
did.
far up your fourth point of contact is your cranium?
Yeah.
Okay, settle down. They left a vacuum, which is going to be filled by what? That's the question.
Yeah.
And now it does, perception-wise, is it shows the stereotype that Republicans don't welcome gays. And
Yeah.
that is absolutely untrue.
Or it shows a stereotype
Yes.
that gays don't welcome Republicans. And I think that's the bigger one it
That
shows.
is truth.
That.
And when we have this platform that is so easy to believe in, it's God. That's first right there, family and freedom. I'm sorry. How is that not everybody's, if they don't believe in God or not? But the idea that there is a higher power, that you just got to be a good person. I'm sorry. Freedom and family. How is this hard? And we're literally fighting in this day and age to keep God in our lives and our kids safe. And you're taking on a mammoth of an office. So my hat's off to you. I respect you for doing it. I can't imagine the difficulty just this alone is. And then you've got your private life. This lawsuit, what exactly is what are you looking at right now? And you reached out to the SEC. I wanted to know, how can the SEC assist you?
In having our elected, I call them elected employees because they
Yeah,
are
I noticed.
employees.
That's brilliant.
Have them held accountable for doing the platform, having some integrity, calling out this corruption. It says right there, we will work to expose and stop corruption. SEC, you are obligated to honor the platform of our Republican Party. Call this out and stop it.
How do we stop it? I mean, do we censure? Because I know censures don't really work, but if we, what do we do? Because we can't affect what Salt Lake County's council can do, but I know we can do something as a party,
Right.
maybe, but.
And making it aware to the SEC, because I'm not a member of the SEC. I don't know what the procedures are. So it's up to them to do what they need to bring this accountability and do something about it. Stop it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all of this, and I'm happy to look at all of your evidence. And I've been following you on X. You guys go to X and just go to her page, and she's got all her videos posted there, and you can see very interesting conversations. And on your website, of course, and on Facebook. Are you under all of them under Sylvia on your socials?
Right. Yes.
Sylvia with a Y.
Yes.
And pronounce your middle, your first.
Mieta Fisk.
Mieta. Beautiful. Fisk. And that's hyphenated. And then engage with her. And if you can't assist her with financial help, assist her with your time. Candidates value the volunteers that they get. Candidates need someone to make phone calls. There's 4,000 people she needs to get in front of. If you want to have a cottage meeting for her and welcome delegates to it, this is the time, people, is to inform your neighbors about who's out there and who's willing to run in this race. Because I've sat down with you now, Jared and I, for 2 hours, and I've almost 2.5 hours. I have found common ground with you on so many different issues that don't even involve politics per se. I mean, they eventually lead to politics and potentially how to make things better, but you're as real as anybody. And I think that your wisdom can go far. And I hope that people are willing to sit down and talk to these candidates, because otherwise they just assume that it's in the bag for the governor. And I want him to be challenged as much as I want anybody to be challenged in this race. Incumbents should have a challenge. It either makes them better and more accountable, or they're replaced.
Right.
Both are win-wins for the people.
And the delegates should understand too that because Cox is already on the primary ballot because he paid for his signatures at convention, vote for someone who does not have signatures. You don't need to vote for Cox. Vote for somebody who needs your vote.
That's a really good point. That does play the system a bit, but you're absolutely right. It gives more choice
Right.
when it comes to the primary.
Hey.
I love it.
What do you have to lose? It's not like we're on a rocket ship going up. We're going down. So what
Thank
do you
you
have to lose?
much. I enjoyed talking to you. I loved it. I loved it.
Thank you, Sylvia.
You were a doll. We really enjoyed it. And it's worth it. Wednesday night special show, Sylvia Miata Fisk.
Yep. Sylvia4gov.com.
Right.
Go check it out. She's got actually a really good looking website. It's a good one. Go check her out. Everyone, we'll be back on Friday. It's a packed day on Friday.
I do want to talk after she's gone about one current event.
Oh, Holly's bringing the heavy. Sylvia, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a wonderful night. And
I love you.
Yes, love you. You're amazing.
Yes, we'll see you. We'll see you in Grantsville on the 11th.
Okay.
We'll
Sounds
see you.
right.
Come at 5:00 so you can set up your table, bring your table, and we've open housed it. So all of you watching, show up in Grantsville and come meet this amazing lady, and then also come to convention and talk to her some more. Thank you for spending your evening with us, Sylvia.
Yep. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. All right. Current events.
Yeah, the bridge.
Oh, rough.
Do you see the allegations
Heinous.
that it could?
Like maybe a cyber attack or
No, not cyber. Like a intentional bring this
Or-
bridge down, hit it in its most sensitive spot.
yeah. I have no clue. I watched the video. It looks like the lights flicker on and off twice on the
They
ship,
lost power.
and then they drop the anchor, and the anchor like plows them into it, is what I've heard, but I don't know. And I am not a seaman, nor am I a boatsman, and so I'm just going off what I've heard.
Just kind of wait and see.
It is a dang tragedy.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like we keep getting hit with tragedies.
You know that there are small blessings. The fact that it wasn't during a rush hour traffic time,
Yes.
as much traffic as this bridge gets, and that does not mean to deplete the severity. It's a 200-foot drop, and they have 2 survivors that I've seen in the latest update.
2 survivors.
There's still 20 plus missing.
But 2 people survived that drop into the frozen water, into the frozen
47
ocean.
degrees. I've only heard 2, and
But any survivors at all is impressive.
it would be, and it could be that they didn't fall the entire 200 feet. I mean, maybe that was as the bridge. I don't know, but I know that you guys, this is the moment when conspiracy theories start. Don't go into it yet. I mean,
Oh no, enjoy them.
watch,
Lean into the conspiracy.
pay attention.
Enjoy it, because you know what? I mean, what are we on the conspiracy scoreboard? We're at like 50%.
Sure. We're not conspiracy theorists. We're conspiracy observers at this point.
We're at like 50%. I mean, 4 years ago when they were saying that a little round ball with spikes on it came out of China in a lab that was made there, paid for by the Americans.
Whoa.
And then YouTube shut me down a handful of times on it and shut a whole bunch of people down. Or remember that guy that was supposedly the embedded reporter on Trump? His name was Carmelo or something, and you couldn't say his name. Hey, we're in a clown world.
It is a clown world. And something like this, you know, we've got the government getting all stocked and ready for bear with this eclipse, and yet
Oh yeah.
Why are all these trucks lined up in for 4 minutes of darkness and a few million people in each state that's going to? I mean, this is insane. And you know, this crash is another. This falls in the line of travel, right? This is Buttigieg's department, kind of like trains and planes. Like, what form of travel has not been absolutely derailed, pun intended?
Walking. That's the only thing Buttigieg hasn't ignored or watched collapse or
You guys, this
had
is
to deal with
crazy.
post de facto. And who knows? Maybe walking has too. We just don't hear about it.
This boat or this bridge was created in the 70s. Where this boat hits from the reports that I've read, and keep in mind, nobody knows yet, and they've stopped, which I understand. They stopped allowing, they're not allowing the airspace to be used by anyone. That means drones, that means choppers, things like that. And I understand that because they're doing a recovery mission right now. And the last thing they want probably is victims getting photographed
Family
and shared
members.
before family knows. And they're also doing sonar to try to see what's down there. And 20 people were doing construction on the bridge at least. So they're still figuring out who was on the bridge and all of that. But
imagine how hard that would be to have to figure out.
It'd be insane. And I don't know what the depth is there. But this ship, this cargo ship, for those who don't know, hit this bridge in Baltimore. Well, in Maryland. Is it Baltimore?
Yes.
It's the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And hit it from what reports are saying, any other place, it wouldn't have taken it down like it did.
And it fell crazy. It's like it separated at every junction and just fell. And maybe the two people that were survived were the people that fell down onto the ship, because those frozen ocean waters, they suck the heat out of you, and then hypothermia locks you up, and
not to the 200-foot drop in itself.
Oh gosh.
It'd be like hitting pavement.
Oh, it'd be like being in a car wreck at 60 miles an hour.
My prayers are with his families and the fear that it's put into people. And then, President Biden has said the government's going to rebuild this bridge, and we've seen him rebuild it. But that's a 1 in a billion shot that boat had. And to lose power right before, and what was it doing there?
It didn't look like it would fit under it anyway.
Yeah, it didn't.
But maybe that could be camera angle. I don't know. I'm not a seaman. Why do you got to take it there? I'm talking serious, and you start giggling.
I was curious, and why I brought it up. I really was curious what you thought when you saw it. Because like me, I was stunned.
Yeah, I thought, what a tragedy. What a nightmare tragedy.
Can you even imagine?
The frozen ocean. You
could be in a car. I wonder what the impact being in your vehicle as it drops that many feet.
And then hits the water. Bam. Water turns into concrete once you get it over a threshold.
Yeah. Well, you reach maximum capacity at 30
maximum velocity
at 30 feet per second. So it's like 30, 60, 90. Pretty soon you're going as fast as humanly possible. And
you're in a car and you're on a floating road. So the road hits, the car hits. It's like dropping a car off of a, what would that be? A 10-story, 12-story building, maybe even
20
more. 20-story building and dropping a car down.
It's actually tragic. And I bet every single person is thinking, if only I waited 5 seconds, because it was that fast, people. If you haven't seen it online.
Yeah. The third time I watched it, you're watching the ship come and the lights blink off and then come back on. And then they blink off again. And right then you see an 18-wheeler get to the other edge of the bridge. And I'm like, that guy there needs to hit and buy a lottery ticket. That is the luckiest human being on the planet right now.
It's heartbreaking.
It's awful.
And had it happened at any other time, the death count would be
7 a.m. or to 9 a.m.
there's already enough people that have been killed, I'm sure. And
they're not
coming out with a ton of numbers.
Well, they've got to dredge the ocean. They've got to look at all the videos, try to figure out how many cars were on there. And then they've got to dredge technology to see
now, and they can see the vehicles, but they can't see if there's living or there's people in them.
Yeah, they won't.
Can't see.
They've got to recover
beings inside. They've got to pull them all out.
They've got to pull, and
You know, there's a human in every single one of them.
At least one.
Yeah.
So they can't even begin to know how many people are in there.
You guys, this takes me back to the infrastructure that is needed in this country, obviously. And Trump has gone the infrastructure bill, which I was angry about because it's $1 trillion. And now they're going back to infrastructure. Biden, Obama, they've all talked infrastructure. But is that money getting in the hands of states to make these type of repairs?
Why does an infrastructure bill have to be ran on the federal level?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's it.
That's going
gotta
to be
go
my
the
key.
States. Let the states keep their
not
money.
go to the states. One,
No,
here's the deal.
decision.
Here's the deal. We shouldn't be paying federal taxes as U.S. citizens. We're only supposed to pay state taxes. The federal taxes came in during World War I, and it was initially, you know what the words were that old Woodrow Wilson used?
Oh.
1% on the 1%. That was the words he used. Now it's what, 60% on all you schmucks, except for the 1%. They get a little less because they live off capital gains.
The 1% pay 90% of the taxes. I mean, they are the ones paying the significant amount
and
of
then
taxes.
they're also the ones that get all the government support to make sure they don't have competition in their business interests.
Can we talk about DirecTV?
I don't know anything about
DirecTV was being sued by the federal government, by the Biden administration for something.
Oh, yeah.
And then the owners of DirecTV made a donation to a super PAC. I think it was $100 and something thousand. They maxed out a donation also to Biden's direct campaign. All of a sudden, lawsuit lifted. Not only that, they got a grant from the federal government.
Not the first time.
And they turned around and now they've got open rights to do business in all these other countries that didn't exist before. So $115,000 investment in a candidate's campaign, and the world is open up and you're no longer in a lawsuit.
Let me tell you a little story.
They don't even give a shit anymore, you guys.
I'll tell you a little story.
They're doing it right in your face.
There was a computer company, a software and hardware company called IBM that hadn't donated to any senatorial or Congress races. And they got called to the floor 4 years. 4 years they were called in and questioned about why you have a monopoly on the market and everything else. And the whole time there's this little company called Microsoft just being born, right? And sliding under that radar. And Microsoft, about a year before IBM finally quits being called to the floor, all of a sudden makes a whole bunch of donation to political offices.
Well, they knew how to play the game.
You've never seen Microsoft on C-SPAN accounting for its monopoly actions. But IBM...
I remember a time when they were actually getting that discussion about being a monopoly when Microsoft was actually... But it was so long ago. It was like when the internet was just coming out.
They were never called. So, yes, our government is corrupt. But we are supposed to pay taxes to our state. And then our states deal with what the federal government needs, or the federal government gets supported off of tariffs. We are not supposed to have the federal's guns at our heads. That was not the freaking deal. But here we are. That's what we have, is the federal government puts a gun to your head once a year. They say, bend over, here it comes, enjoy this.
Not just once a year, every single day, every transaction,
Well, yes,
every penny you make, every penny you spend.
Once a year, they really do it. Once a year, they have an organization
that's armed.
Kind of dig around in your orifices to see how much they can bleed from you. And no, the rich, the wealthy avoid a lot of taxes at the same time.
The wealthy helped write that code.
Yes, they did.
They helped.
Why is it
those campaigns?
Why is it you're taxed twice as much if you work than if you invest? Why is that? Someone break that one down for me.
Well, why is your investment entitled to any tax money when you've already paid taxes on it? Break that one down. And why is the government entitled to a dime after you pass away?
There it is.
You've paid taxes on every penny in your
You
in
shouldn't.
your life,
You shouldn't
and
have
then
to.
you have to pay it again.
We shouldn't pay taxes to the federal government. It should be states coming clean. The federal government should deal with tariffs.
She made a great point when she said we don't need to remake the Constitution. We need to reread it. Here's the problem. Our powers that be have corrupted the Constitution by adding all these amendments to it. And we've had a Supreme Court that has
Why do you got to bring up the 19th
agreed.
Amendment every time?
The Supreme Court has been activists all through history to allow it to be so. And yet here we are. I mean, it takes a majority of states to even add an amendment to the Constitution. So it's not like it happened overnight.
It doesn't take a majority. That's if we want to do the states addition to it. Our Congress and Senate adds it. I mean, what was it? Was it the 18th Amendment that was the prohibition?
I thought it was the 20th. No, that was in the 20th.
The 21st was what did away with it. That was done by Congress and the Senate. That was not a convention of states amendment.
Well, if we could ever get a convention of states together, I think it'd be nice to go through that Constitution and not add anything, but subtract.
Yes. And how would it be if they said, you know what? It's modern age. We're going to eliminate Washington, D.C. Everyone, you stay in your states. You telecommute into Congress and the Senate. Matter of fact, what we're going to do is we're going to sell those buildings. Those buildings, you know, we can sell them as apartments or drug rehabs or
museums,
dance clubs, or
we got to preserve them. They're our history. You can't sell the Capitol. Can't sell.
You know what? They've got Lincoln's log cabin. You know what they don't have? Lincoln's outhouse.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's our outhouse.
Still, we preserve it.
Ugh.
We preserve it. I'm not saying they have to work there, but I agree with you.
Scum and villainy.
Every federal elected should be doing work from the state they represent.
Yes.
Because they forget who they work for.
That's where they should be.
And
have you heard back from Celeste?
No, I have not.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna jump to any conclusions, but you say she voted yes on the
yes
spending bill. Do we know what was in the bill?
Nope, but I know that I was contacted by a couple people asking about that. And I hope she comes on and justifies herself because they're mad.
She did say that she would not vote for another.
Yes, she did on this show.
Bill. And then did you say that Mike Johnson has a chance of being outed? Because tomorrow night we're going to go to Matt Gaetz. Are you going to go?
Marjorie Taylor Greene said Marjorie Taylor Greene put it forward to oust him. But I don't think she's getting the support from the rest of the party to do it, because if they oust him, they've only got a 1 vote majority now?
No, I think it's 4.
But they're nervous that they might get a Democrat as speaker. I want to say this. We're in full-on collapse, folks. Let the Democrats absorb that. You know?
Do you want to go tomorrow night?
Yeah. You ain't fixing it. We can't fix this. We can't. We can't fix it when 3 times a year they go in there and $1.5 trillion gets signed. We can't fix that.
I mean, aside from just tearing it all down. And I mean that like voting people out. I don't mean
guillotines
nooses, and
yes.
Rioting at the
We
Capitol.
don't mean guillotines and nooses and firing squads. We mean.
Can you picture this world though in 100 years? Can you picture this country in 100 years?
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to show this picture again.
I'm pitching it, and you're going to hit it out of the park.
See, this picture is a very famous picture. This is a very famous, the painting of the fall of Rome. I forget its name. But I'm thinking in 100 years, it'll be more than 100. It'll be about 400 because we've got to go through.
The course of empire destruction? Is that
Yeah.
what it's called, by Thomas Cole?
Yes, but
Cole
we've got to
Thomas?
go. We've got to go through. We've got to be into the end of the strong men phase to get artwork like this. But this picture, there will be photos like this about us.
Well, that would be DC.
Yeah, but
I just can't see a people that are going to sustain like this. Like
it's
you say,
happened to every
and
civilization
eventually they're
before
going to
us.
show up again on the Capitol's doorsteps, but it'll be what's really called an insurrection. Like, this isn't even an insurrection. What happened January 6th? Like, no one's even been accused of
No.
that. But you're going to see
You want to hear
worse
my honest opinion?
across capitals all over the United States. It won't just be the U.S. Capitol. It'll be a rise of people that are just done.
You want to hear my next opinion? Is that when it happens, we won't see protesting at the Capitol. We'll see people retreating to their states to bolster and get ready to do that great lead exchange.
Well, that's what I mean. You'll have people at every capital in
No, they
the
won't even-
United States. Every city will
Yeah.
have, every state will have its capital.
You'll see militias, state militias starting to form. You'll see certain governors bolster. I'm afraid that's where we're headed. Or you'll see the Senate and the Congress make it so that foreign citizens can be in part of our military. So we'll have a bunch of Chinese and Venezuelan special forces come up, join our military, embed inside. They will be the military that they use against us, along with probably the support of some pale blue-hatted people who are aiding them in coming up here right now. That honestly, we need to account for that. Right now, we need to kick UN out of this hemisphere. We need to go back to the Monroe Doctrine.
What's the Monroe Doctrine?
The Monroe Doctrine was when Monroe, the president,
Marilyn Monroe?
Monroe was our
You don't have to. You just go on. He was the
seventh
president.
eighth president. He said to Europe, "This is our hemisphere. You're not allowed."
Okay, but how do you do that with the need for economy and
Well, he chose to do it with the Navy and the Marines, but
right? How do you
can
do
it
that?
however
You can't
want.
go back to that doctrine. We have
No.
a full on.
No, you can trade. Trade's open. You don't get to come take anything over here. Now, granted, we did the taking over
We
and the
don't want
shady stuff.
Canada. Do we take Canada?
I say we send Castro's son back to his home country and see if Canada can't do a little better under old Polivier.
So I don't know. I think if we just move the borders maybe north and south and just extended the borders and made them
Or-
all America.
We take
Maybe
Alberta,
it
we
would
give
be
them
better.
California, and we take that Polivier guy.
Interesting. I mean, I just wanted
But
to
no,
see
there's
what you
gonna
thought
be-
because
That painting done,
Okay,
except
put it
it's
back
going
on.
to be DC.
on our side, there's lots of paintings of the fall of Rome actually, and
But that one is like the most iconic.
I hope that Trump. I'm not putting all my faith in him because no man can live up to what this country needs right now. But I hope that Trump has support from this party. Either they support him or they don't. But we're going to see for ourselves.
They
folks.
got good support last time.
No,
What?
we
Let
had
me
the
ask
House,
you this.
we had the Senate, we had the presidency.
I need you to white
And-
pill me.
They stabbed him in the back.
Oh, yeah. What could Trump do to correct where we are at?
I'm not saying Trump by himself. We need the Senate. We need the House.
Let's say we give Trump, Vice President, old JC, power to the man, and he gets the Senate and Congress. What are the steps he could do to correct where we are right now?
Number
34
one-
trillion in debt. Oh, I apologize.
Deregulate.
35.5 trillion in debt.
Number one is deregulate.
Okay.
Number two is get the laws off the books that inhibit your freedoms get rid of the Patriot Act.
Mm-hmm.
The rights go back to the state on most, if not all things.
10th Amendment.
Get rid of the Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
The EPA should be a state thing and not a government thing, if it's a thing at all.
Loving it.
I think you stop spending money out overseas, and I think you start spending money at home.
Okay.
If you have to spend money, it should go to schools, in the protection of the schools. It should go to the border, in protection of the border, and it should go into potentially criminal justice reform,
Mm-hmm.
because we need criminal justice reform.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure every judge seat is filled, and not with activists. If it's an appointed seat and they show activism in any way without evidence, they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Those are federal judges. I think the state should do the exact same thing. They need to
Mhm.
clean house. The judge's job is to be neutral no matter what. It should be only about the law and not about activism. And we're watching in real time people, not just the ex-president, we're
just-
watching people be persecuted. And yet a Black community has been screaming there are 2 tiers of justice. And they're not wrong. When you compare crime to crime, victim to victim, the penalties are harsher. Either they're harsher for the person of color, or they're way less. It just
Or
depends
they
on
totally-
the city they're
They
in.
totally walk if they dismember a woman and try flushing her
Just
down the
depends on
toilet.
the city they're in, folks, and the type of prosecutors or DAs you
But
have.
justice is blind.
Justice is a Democrat right now, and they're
hey,
fighting their opponent.
I also want to say, was your president right now that's in place that set up the 94 crime bill? That was his baby. Of course, our state senator at the time was in on it, Hatch, but it was Biden that pushed it through. It was Biden who
He used racial,
authored it.
ridiculous comments also during that bill.
He did all
And
the
Trump
time.
was doing criminal justice reform,
He was.
and he only could do so much. And I think that that's something I hope that he goes into his next presidency when we get him. And I hope that he goes into it knowing he has not done enough. He has to get criminal justice reform down, and every senator that doesn't get on board with him should be called out in huge ways, because Black or white, the system is rigged.
What I'm worried about is that this traditional idea that Republican conservatives have are going to get into office right as the collapse happens, and it's going to be blamed on traditional ideas, and we're going to see traditional ideas disappear out of political theory for 100 years. That's my concern.
Well, that may be the case. I mean, every time there's a shutdown, whoever caused it gets the. Anytime the riot started in Summer of Love, it was the conservatives' fault, because they believe in that Black lives don't matter.
What's going to concern me is that communism or some form of that will be the order of the day, and everyone.
It's the order of the day now.
Everyone. It's,
They are blatantly
from our
doing it in your
colleges
face now.
and our
They're not
media,
even denying it
but no,
anymore. They're
it'll
blatantly
be
showing you who
from-
they are.
it'll be from everyone, because the collapse will happen underneath a conservative Republican or an
Why do you think
80s
that?
Democrat.
I mean, why? Is it just because
Just-
the luck of whoever gets elected? Because
It's a lot of that.
okay, because I honestly think
I
that
don't think that
Trump can do a lot if he's got the support of conservatives, and if he's got the support of the party. He can do a lot. Look what Biden. Look what Biden.
you know, the
has
party
done.
and the conservatives are two different things,
I do
right?
know that. I do know that.
That's what I'm concerned is that
but
he's going to get in there. And honestly, if he's going to correct this, he's going to, it'll be just the correction will be an economic destruction, because if you're going to correct it, you have to tear down our federal bureaucracy. And just doing that will be an economic disaster. I don't see a way out.
this is the thing, economic disaster, maybe.
How
But
many
if
people?
Trump rules his next 4 years, and I say rule, tongue in cheek, but if he does the next 4 years and make it not about Trump, but about policy, and he is all about policy, and he is exposing who the swamp is, and unapologetically leading with purpose and saying, here's why I'm doing this, here's why I'm doing this, here's why I'm doing this. And the Senate is saying, here's why this is going to get your freedoms. Just by doing away with the Patriot Act, are we less safe or more safe?
Oh, we'd be a lot more safe.
What about political theater at the airport? What if we do what Israel does and profiles people at the airport?
Or if we let the airlines deal with it again?
Private security. Airlines don't want people taking their planes.
I would do away with a governmental no-fly list. I would let the airlines deal with that and then have total transparency between law enforcement agencies and the airlines, and let the airlines decide if they want to let Muhammad Atta on their airplanes again. Instead of, prior to that, the airlines couldn't get a list of a guy named Muhammad Atta, even though he was on, the FBI's eyes, but the FBI wasn't sharing information with the NSA or the CIA, and they weren't sharing information back and forth because they were all too busy with their measuring tapes and their flies down.
We need an audit absolute of every ABC agency. And I think that if they can be absorbed into local governments, that's where they need to be absorbed into.
Except for you ATF, you guys, homeless shelter.
And the EPA.
The EPA has become very abusive.
Did you see the Congress or the senator calling out all the members of the EPA and saying, how much carbon do you think is in the air?
Yeah.
And they were like,
saw that.
5-8%. He's like,
wasn't that Kennedy that was asking that?
Yeah, probably 0.25%. Do you even know if there was that much carbon in the air, we'd all be dead with what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then how by reducing us to zero in America, what does that do to save the climate across the world?
Probably
zero, folks, because we are a world, a globe. If every single country started to obey, what would change?
Doesn't China open up something like 30 new coal-fired electric plants a year?
China's the worst contributor.
Actually, right now, I think India is.
Probably.
I think it's India right now.
But the United States could go zero. And these people who claim to know what's going to happen in 10 years and they make these judgments, they can't tell you the weather in 2 days. These people are telling you that your money is going to stop the globe warming or cooling or changing by throwing money and taking freedoms and making compliance out of every single American. And yet it does nothing if the entire world doesn't do it. Mm. China won't do it. India won't do it. They're billions of people. We're 300,000+ or a million. What are we going to do? This is what is irritating me. It's become a religion. And the time that we start calling it out, the EPA, I'm not saying get rid of them, but their standards are ridiculous that even our whole world could go electric. And they would not. You still need fossil fuels to run electricity, folks. You need water, which is a highly needed resource anyway. Why isn't technology focused on turning salt water into fresh water and then piping that through the entire country?
The reason that's not done a lot is because of the tailings, the salt and minerals that get left behind in great big piles.
I'm sorry, we're a community that has made huge businesses out of salt and minerals.
I think that could, that's what I was going to say. I think that could be retooled. You shut down Cargill on the West Coast.
Technology, folks, that could come from utilizing fresh water out of an ocean and then putting the water back. Putting the water back.
Dubai has.
You guys, this is a clown world. The fact that they're not curing cancer, but every year they say they're curing cancer. but they can create a deadly virus in a lab.
Well, the thing is they're not curing cancer because they've given power to the FDA to allow different pesticides in our foods. I think that is causing it, but that's just my
mRNA
opinion.
has just been allowed in our foods. And did you hear the Chick-fil-A did?
I did not.
Chick-fil-A, they can't justify the cost. So they are going from antibiotic-free chickens to chickens with antibiotics.
Oh, good. Remember when KFC
Why?
was making those beakless chickens? They
They were growing
Something
a
like that.
breast or something. You
don't
guys,
know.
this is crazy. Our food supply is under attack.
We're going to eat the crickets.
It's by design, and it's all in the name of this climate change crap. And I'm telling you, I'm going to bring in some curriculum from the school that's climate related. Can I bring it Friday, or we got a full pack show?
We got a way packed show Friday. We got that and the 4:00. So we got 3 people on Friday.
I hope you guys tune in. I know that we don't have a lot of people tuning in live because you're not used to
We've
us.
got Camille
being
Knudsen, Joey Lanig Brunner. He's going to be talking about how to escape the U.S. when it collapses. And we've got Carrie Bartholomew.
And Camille is running for the school board, for the state
So
school
is
board
Carrie.
out of our county here in
Yes.
Twilla County. And then Carrie Bartholomew is running.
I think it's in the 13th, the 12th or the 13th district. But she's a friend, and she's running down more in southern Utah. She is, she's an interesting chat too. She does a lot of
that you guys are watching. I hope that you're sharing. If you like us, please like and subscribe us on YouTube, on the socials, follow us. If you have an idea for a show, can just message us. If there's somebody you want us to reach out to, if there's someone you have that might be interested, like we really want to get candidates on here during this time, and we want all sides. So if there's a Democrat candidate that you really push and support, we'll be fair. We can be grown-ups and have a conversation. I actually think that Democrats really love the country, even though they think it needs a lot of changing. But I think right now, they're probably feeling just as baffled as we are, to a different extent, because they can't speak out about it, or it's an actual dig at their party.
Well,
and we need to start speaking against our own party
I
if we
think
want to change.
The thing is Jonathan Haidt's done lots of studies on this. Is you've got left and right wing people have different minds and different thoughts, and it's actually genetic. They've proven that. But the left sees all the bads from inside the culture, where the right sees all the bads from outside the culture. And that's why you see the left fighting, say, oh, yeah, bring in all these third world people. They'll only make us better. And people other than me, they've actually proven that a left-wing person shows more care for someone they do not know than a
Empathy.
family member.
But they're not the one that's going to open their door either and say, come in my house and stay here.
Whoa.
They're not.
You're going crazy there. Some of them will. You're looking at the wealthy
And I
won't,
hate
but
to
some of them
stereotype,
do.
guys. I don't mean to do that. The left is a giant genre of people, and I'm in the side of the right, which is also a giant genre of people, and we're all different. We're all individuals. I preach that on the show, the importance of the individual spirit and how we all are here in this time, at this moment, for a purpose. We all have a purpose, and we all matter. But I hope to get anyone that's running for an office, they already have my respect. I don't care what party they're running under. I would like to talk to them.
Hey, and it's all about getting the incumbents out. So bring me a message.
It's not for me, but I can absolutely understand. I can absolutely understand that, get the incumbents out. And I can see it more now. I think anybody that has to run for their job again has to come to the table with their record, with the evidence of their record that is positive. They have to fall on their sword for the negative, in my opinion. They have to admit what they've done wrong and ask for the forgiveness of the people and the trust to let them go in a second time. And if they can't do that, I mean, I'm all in for Trump, but I wish Trump would have come to the table and said,
that's one of the downsides with term limits is you get it to where it's probably just passing the buck to the next person they've groomed, which I'm not saying this against Celeste, but she was selected by her predecessor. And I'm not saying Celeste is bad, although
she was selected by the delegates.
Although,
I mean, there was a race, and whether you agree
and
or
the
not,
race was fairly tight right in the beginning.
The people picked her.
But the hard part in the end is, I hope she comes on and has a good justification, and it can't be because it was tied into military spending, because then they've got your ticket punched. If you're going to say that every time, well, I wasn't going to vote for it, but they said we had to do the budget, the defense budget, then they've got your ticket. Then they say, okay, every American has to get hit on the top of the head with a mallet every third Tuesday. And also defense budget. And she's going to be like, okay.
You're right. Again, on this, the incumbents, you would have a revolving door, and we might just have a revolving door of mediocrity. And is that worse than what we have now? Or is it better? Again, it's relative. But
it's tough.
You also want people who are going in there to fight. And that's why I always ask, are you willing for this to be your only term and not get reelected in order to implement these, what are now considered insane ideas?
It's great how they all say, yes, I'm willing for it to be my only term. And I'm going to hang on to it until a better offer comes. And then I'm going to retire early.
You're stabbing and twisting. This hurts a lot.
That's what they keep doing.
It hurts a lot.
That guy that just retired out of Congress, he just did. Was he from Ohio?
I don't know.
Yeah, he just barely. The Republican, he just retired so he could go work for some defense contractor.
That's what all of them do. In fact, if they don't, I would be surprised. If they retired and actually went home and decided to, I don't know, sit under a
Dr. Ron
tree
Paul
and enjoy the
Dr.
peace and
Ron
quiet.
Paul went home and started a podcast, The Liberty Report.
Of course he did.
Because that guy,
he's the real deal.
Yeah, he's got integrity.
I love Rand Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Rand Paul was calling out Dr. Fauci from the beginning.
Yep.
And the research and the lab and the economy crushing decisions. And then the vaccine, the V word.
You can say vaccine.
I just can't say the C word.
YouTube
right?
doesn't. No, you can say coronavirus. YouTube doesn't go after that anymore.
Then what did they go after us on the media group for?
They must have went out. I don't know why. That I'm trying to figure out.
Him.
I would like to find out.
That's another thing, guys, censorship. But when the government doesn't even have to do it you because businesses will do it for them.
Did you see any of Don Lemon's interview with Elon Musk?
Yeah, just the important part.
That is quite interesting.
And then he goes on like he was a victim of it.
Oh, of course. Don Lemon.
Him on The View? That View is garbage. Anyway.
Don Lemon is an NPC.
That's a great way to describe him.
He has no original thought. He's just a guy
like,
that,
hey, my man,
parrots. I'm black and I have been discriminated against, except for by my white husband. That's it. That's all he does. He's
Donald
he's got
Trump.
no
blah,
original
blah,
no
the
original
Republican
thought.
Party, blah blah blah. Well, I would say that too about Hannity. And he's on my side, so I'll criticize.
Is
fairly.
Hannity on your side?
No. He thinks. I mean, he placates that he is, and I know a lot of you out there love Hannity.
Yeah, right now my dad's probably.
I'm not a huge fan of him, just because I feel like he parrots a lot of ideas.
Dude, I love
and
Tucker
it's over
nowadays.
and over and over. Yeah,
Tucker's gone wild. When he had Alex Jones on, boom. boom, blew my head off my neck.
It was crazy.
It was wild.
You
When-
guys look at this. Alex Jones used to be the most insane
Persona non grata.
now I'm not saying anything because I think he was totally messed up when it came to that tragedy that happened. I do not. I mean,
Sandy Hook?
Yeah, I absolutely
Sure.
think he was out of line. But when he said, "You're making the frogs gay,"
No, the
and
craziest
then
thing.
2 years later, a report comes out that they're seeing
Yeah, that
frogs are
hermaphrodite.
exhibiting gay behaviors when they
No,
never
they-
had in history.
They're not male frogs weren't expressing male genes. They were making frogs hermaphrodites by the drugs they were putting in. Here's the biggest one. You know, in 2001, and I think it was April, he said they're going to crash airplanes into the Twin Towers.
April 2001.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But again, they canceled him, they destroyed him, and it actually took, I don't know where the world would be even right now in this moment had Elon Musk not bought X.
Oh, dude, you're not kidding.
That's like,
It's huge. It's huge.
It's
Just
going
to
to be-
allow a level one outlet, that and Rumble. Rumble's your video level playing field, and X is your communication level playing field. If it wasn't for Elon Musk buying
it's
X,
insane. In fact, and it was all about, if you don't like it so much, why don't you buy it? And he said, okay, on a Twitter feed.
don't let him buy it.
And then it was like, wait, what? And he went in, I'll buy it. And then
Mhm.
the exposure of everything. And if the American people aren't able to, I'm curious what's going to happen, because if I had the opportunity to sue a private company for not only censoring me, but for basically unconsciously determining my vote and selling my data, not just selling it, but all the time, like
What about Google advertising?
shadow banning me without me knowing, like that would inhibit a lot of people's profits who actually make money off of that
What
site.
about Google during the election
Oh, I'll never
advertising in blue areas? Remember to go out and vote.
How about the fact that you couldn't pull up a bad story about Hillary Clinton in 2016? It didn't exist on Google.
Yep.
It just didn't exist.
And here I am.
And everything, if you put Trump in the search engine, it'll follow, the words that follow are all bad.
But what it did is it showed the media for what it is. How many people, how many just average person goes to CNN, MSNBC, Fox, or even like the Yahoo news page anymore?
It's garbage. I won't do any of it.
They're all hot garbage. Even though I would say Fox's regular news is probably the best straight up news out there. Fox on cable Fox.
Yeah, I
when
won't
they
even
have
go
their
to Fox
regular
anymore.
news. But no, I mean, nowadays they're getting that 1481 or whatever, 1441
I don't believe them.
news. And you've got ground news. You've got all these news sites that are non-political, non-biased, that just, and they put out all the news from all the different outlets, sum up the story, tell you who owns the outlets, and their political affiliation, and these things are exploding.
People are hungry for truth. They're hungry for it. At least the people who are awake. Because, I mean, I used to only watch Fox News, and then I started watching CNN because I thought, I got to be able to understand where these other people are coming from. And I was like, seriously? This is where you guys, how are you telling all these people this with a straight face? I lost it, but I say the same thing about Fox. I think they're just as guilty. They're just doing it on a different angle. And then once in a while you blur the lines, and COVID was the blur for me.
It's almost like the media is stoking a civil war. They're willing to burn it all down for ratings.
But they don't understand that same time they're burning themselves down.
Yeah, but they're making their money now.
They'll make it now, but
Dude,
it won't be worth nothing if
During
they
Trump,
don't have it keep coming in.
CNN,
CNN wants
and
Trump back.
MSNBC made
They
billions during Trump.
all of them want Trump back in office.
Here's
guys.
a fact: CNN was on the chopping block prior to Trump.
Absolutely.
And Trump was the adrenaline hit to the heart.
He made him rich.
Yep.
And he made him more famous again. They were dying.
And I think, honestly, I think Fox is dying too. And I think that's part of them getting rid of Tucker.
I think Fox absolutely.
I think
you still have to comply at Fox, even if you don't
all
agree.
Dying.
They're afraid of truth because truth will destroy them.
Yep. They're all dying. Anyways, that's a night. I have to get to bed because I have to wake up.
Everybody has to wake up. I hope we do. Everybody, thank you for
Everybody
staying
but
tuned.
Holly. Holly will stay in bed till 11:30.
Wow. Actually, I might. Thank you for the permission.
Anyways, everyone have a good night. We'll see you on Friday. Friday we have Carrie Bartholomew, Joey Laneg-Brunner, and Camille Knudsen. All of those should be interesting conversations.
Join us from 2 to 6.
Yep.
Please like our page and
Might be
and
2 to
hit
7.
the notification on our YouTube, on our X, on Facebook,
Yep.
Rumble.
Yep.
Please, if you put the
All your
notification,
podcatchers.
it really, really helps us to grow our audience and hopefully educate more people on what we're doing. And if we suck, just don't tell anyone about us. But if you like us, tell your friends.
If we suck, brainwash your friends before you have them listen to it so that they think that we don't.
To my friends and family who are going through stuff and who are far away, I love you. I miss you. I'm here for you. Reach out, and please, please, all of you who are going through this election season, stay the course, get involved, interview these candidates. Even if you're not a delegate, get to know who these people are and call your delegates, call your precinct chairs, and talk to your neighbors. We need good people serving in these offices, and that doesn't happen by doing nothing. We get what we deserve.
Mm-hmm.